even though they have, they don't have electricity, even though they swim in oil, because it's so corrupt and so badly managed.
For the record, and when I say it, I don't mean water bottles, but they do have water in Iran. They do. Nice try dehumanizing them even more.
15 million views. I mean, the whole population of Iran is
They're
about
watching, right?
90 million. So I said, oh, wow, that's amazing. You know what the amazing thing is? They have names. The people,
Like, like literally, I'm not joking when I say he's dehumanizing people.
they don't want a state next to Israel. They want a state instead of Israel.
And that, when people say, "Oh, you're projecting," this is textbook projecting. He just said they don't even want Israel to be a thing. They just want that land.
While we're having this back and forth, a new plan to settle Gaza with Israelis was presented in the Knesset today. It includes the following elements. 1.2 million Jews will relocate to Gaza. All Palestinians will be expelled. 300,000 housing units will be built. High-tech agriculture and education centers will be built. This was never about defeating Hamas or getting back the hostages. It was always about the destruction of the Palestinian people to establish greater Israel. They're openly admitting that all the fucking time.
The only time in America I can think of that 99% of Americans were on the same page. Because it's America, 360 million people, you're never going to believe, and everyone on the same page on a subject, on a topic. We're always going to be divided and try to find common ground. But the one thing 90% of Americans, 90 to 99%, were all in agreement on was 9/11. Now, some people might felt different in the ways they felt, but we all not only felt patriotism and wanted something else done, but the complicity to it and the willingness to engage. 90 or so percent of Americans felt it's justified, still do. A fat percentage of that, I'd say 70 to 80% still do, right? And 90 to 99% will tell you there's a reason we went into the Middle East. There's a reason. It's because of what happened, right? Everyone will agree on that. That's why we did it, right? And we were all on the same page on that. Now, can you think of any other time in history where 90% of Americans agree on anything? I can't, at least. Now, if you take that into a different country's thought process, when October 7th happened, he said that isn't why we went to the Middle East, in my opinion. I agree with that. We, high up officials wanting Poppy. But can you agree that that's the common person, we're on the common people, not the high ups that made the choice, but the common people's thoughts on it is what I'm talking about, in a sense, right? I could agree to your point. But the premise of my thing, he says the excuse that we used, and 90 to 99% of Americans not only felt it was justified, right? I can't think of any other time in history where almost everybody is on the same page, right? Now, if we looked at October 7th, when Hamas did 1,200 casualties, killed 1,200 people that were citizens in Israel, that were at concerts, that were just enjoying themselves, because Hamas is also extremely in the wrong for a lot of their stuff, and this is one of them. But I will say, when it happened, 90 to 99% of people in Gaza were celebrating. The videos that I saw on Twitter, the videos some of you saw on Twitter, we cried over. We were insanely bug-eyed. Didn't turn the computers up, didn't want to see more. They were all celebrating it. Now, what gets a population to that point?
You know how old the Jewish people is? America is 250 years old next year, right? Right? Well, the Jewish people are 3,500 years old, all right? Remember Moses parting the Red Sea? That's about 3,500 years ago.
Let's get on. Let's talk about that. I brought up whole taking it in a literal sense. You're telling me to believe that happened? That not only did, not like a tsunami where it like pulls water back, but it did that sideways. to split the ocean, but then it also, as a weapon, closed to kill the people chasing them. Cool story. I'm not taking that literally.
And we're not.
He said, well, you could also look at it in the sense of Israel was killing people back then also.
I would say is a paragon of freedom in an area that doesn't exactly enjoy freedom. And to have young Americans march and support these mass rape, these people who beheaded men, who burned.
Once again, mass rape. I don't know if you're talking about Israel, because you should be talking about Israel, because Israel had a policy where they tried to prosecute at 6 of the concentration camp guards at Sidi Tayman prison. Okay, it is a concentration camp where they would pack up Palestinians from the Gaza Strip and then ship them off into this concentration camp. 6 of the concentration camp guards were caught on camera, on CCTV footage, raping the Palestinian prisoners to death. The Israeli government knew that there was an ICC prosecution being conducted into war crimes. So they wanted to use the principle of complementarity to defend themselves as a shield, to be like, see, we're actually investigating ourselves and we won't find any wrongdoing, but we're investigating ourselves nonetheless. So you can't investigate us, because that's how international organs of justice work. International organs of justice can only investigate and prosecute you for war crimes if you are not sufficiently dealing with the war crimes that you are committing. So knowing that, they literally, knowing that there was a UN report coming out on sexual violence that the Israeli state was committing to, was committing against the Palestinians, that they tried to at least prosecute some of these rapes. They literally had a pro-rape January 6th. They were armed and they forcibly released these concentration camp guards. There was an emergency session in the Israeli Knesset where one of Benjamin Netanyahu's own party members unironically said that their concentration camp guards had a right to rape Palestinians. They had a right to rape them. That's what he said. This is all on camera. It sounds made up because it's so insane. But it's not made up at all. It is literally on camera. Many people, obviously, are completely oblivious to this reality because Western media does not cover it. And the reason why Western media does not cover it is because if Western media did cover it, the Israeli approval ratings that are already incredibly low would be so goddamn low that people would be demanding military intervention that are unfolding in Israel. But I will go even further. Remember, this man in the middle right there is the primary rapist. And at first he went on television to talk about how he had a right to rape the Palestinian prisoners to death. Then he unmasked himself and became a television personality. The Israeli soldier was caught raping Palestinians on camera, is now being honored and celebrated like a celebrity star at shows in Israel. And if it were true, Israeli rabbi defense soldiers accused of Palestinian prisoner. A video shows a rabbi in Israel blessing a soldier accused of Palestinian detainee, defending his actions, even if the soldier is to be found guilty. I'm sorry, dog. You can't have your prime minister running around and being like, oh, these guys were fighting a rape. They're rape beheaders. Yeah. Over a year after their arrest, 5 Israeli soldiers accused of beating and sexually abusing a Palestinian detainee at Sidi Tayman have yet to face trial. Now a military judge recommends mediation instead. The Israeli military has offered more severe penalties to Israeli Jewish soldiers in the military that cook hot dogs on Saturday than rape Palestinian prisoners in a concentration camp on CCTV. Yes, because Jews are obviously not supposed to work on Saturday. It's Shabbos. So when the Israeli occupying force soldiers actually went to a kitchen and cooked up hot dogs, they got a more severe penalty than these rapists did.
That is something that I think that.
Yeah, this is him. Remember, he's playing to the audience. He is hyping up his closeness to Donald Trump, a figure that the Nelk Boys audience obviously likes. Remember, Benjamin Netanyahu is a demon, but also he is a very successful propagandist. This motherfucker's been the leader of Israel for decades at this point. Understand something here. Like every single thing that he's saying, and the very fact that he's doing this interview is calculated. And as I described to the Nelk boys yesterday, the reason why he's doing this interview with the Nelk boys when he won't do this interview with Haaretz or any number of different Israeli outlets, including Israeli outlets that are literally promotional to him, because Benjamin Netanyahu notoriously does not speak to Israeli outlets. He barely does interviews with American outlets. So why is he offering an hour and 13 minutes to the Nelk boys? This is a question everyone should be asking.
I'll just go ahead and say how I feel on it is. It is really fucked up with Israel. He said as far as Tom goes, there's only like 1 or 2 songs of his that are any good, but the rest are garbage. I agree with you. Hell yeah, bro. You haven't followed it? It's sad, bro. It's not only so sad, but we in the West, here in America, have been so propagandized. I'm biased. I'm biased because I've done a lot of research on it, and I implore anyone to do their own research. However, the one thing I would suggest is if you're going to do research, go back to 1948 first. And then also go back to like 1920, because that's really where it starts, right? Where this domino effect starts. To simplify some things, I know it's something some people don't care about. Some people might want to know, but I don't know which side you stand on. I'm still going to say it regardless. So the League of Nations back in the day, 1920s, during the First World War, right? Maybe it was after the First World War. We gave authority of Palestine to Britain, right? We gave them the authority of the territory. So anything that happens there, the person who we talk to do anything over there, we talk to Britain. They have control over it, right? And in 1940s, so for 20 or so years, we had the British Mandate, is what it's called, over in Palestine, right? They were under Britain rule. And then 20 years later, Israel, after World War II, right, we have the 1940s, right, we go through that. 1948, 1947 is where we're at, where after World War II, with everything about the persecution of Jewish people, which has been all throughout history, that's when the state of Israel was made, right? The country of Israel was made to be a homeland for Jewish people, right? And the next day, literally a day after they were founded, they were invaded by 5 different countries. This is 1940s, 1948. They were invaded by Egypt. They were invaded by Iran, I believe. They were invaded by Jordan. They were invaded, I think, by Syria. And it was one more. However, I do want to emphasize, not Palestine. Palestine did not invade Israel, right? Of the 5 nations that did, Palestine is not one that is talked about. However, when all of these nations did their march to Israel, they crossed Palestinian land to get to Israel. So Palestine people were not involved in it, like actually killing people or going into the country, but they let people, they in a way were complicit, right? So, that's just saying that. Once Israel wins against the other 5 nations with a lot of American help, once they get through it, they ended up doing what's named in Palestine as a Nakba in their language. It means catastrophe. It was 700,000 Palestinians that were either killed or relocated out of Palestine. And the founder of Zionism, which is, it's like when we think of white nationalists, when we think of radicalized people, and I'm being biased when I say it, but Zionism and Zionists are radical as shit. They are radical as shit, right? The premise of it is to have the area of Israel be a homeland for Jewish people and to continue expanding their territory until there is no Palestinian people left. When you Google the word Zionism, that is what comes up when you look at Wikipedia. That is the definition in the textbook, right? To expand and expand and expand until there is no Palestinian people left. Well, 1900s writers were saying things like, the Palestinian land is a land of no people and a people with no land. So for the longest time, they've been dehumanizing the Palestinian area. What started when Israel was founded in the 1940s, a lot of people from Palestine left, right? Jewish people that lived there left. And there was already tension in Palestine from conflicts during the British Mandate period, where for 20 or so years, every year, just like how we have, some leftists might go firebomb Tesla stuff, and like there's always random events, right? And when you go through Googling what happened in Palestine in 1922, 23, 24, when you Google these one at a time and you sit there and read them, you will see that there's so many different back and forth events. And that's probably why when they did create Israel, it was so against a two-state environment. It was against Palestinian people with the goal of expanding. And that from 1950, right after the Nakba, since then, you could consider Palestine being condensed into a restricted area where people cannot leave without permission. Even if you were the prime minister or leader, you would be checked at the doorway. It is a occupied country for the last 70 years, right? In 1967, I believe, there was a lot of events going on because people were trying to make change. And a lot of the time, peaceful protesting led to people dying, people being shot, right? And it escalated. It just escalates from there. In the 1967, I believe it was a really tough time in Palestine. And 1980s is when Hamas was founded, 15 or so years after that, which I do want to advise too. When it comes to areas in the Middle East, especially with Palestine, there's a lot of resistance groups, right? So Hamas is probably one of like 30 in Palestine. It is just the most known because it is the biggest, it is the leaders, right? But these resistance groups were formed in a way to fight back against the atrocities that have been happening. And I am a little bit willing to justify or at least explain why we got to this point. It's not one side's all barbaric and has no reasoning for what they're doing. It's a domino effect that started somewhere. You know what I mean? That's really what I say that to say. I'm not trying to justify it because both sides are in the wrong. Both sides need to be condemned. At the end of the day, when all of this is done, Hamas shouldn't own anything. They shouldn't be owning a shop. You know what I mean? They shouldn't be leaders, right? That is not my point of this, right? It is a violent back and forth for the last 70 years where, ironically, where the Jewish people were the ones persecuted, not only for thousands of years in history, but also in 1940s, 50, 60, 70 to 80 years ago, right? A time that people alive now should be very well aware of are now the ones doing it. Because it's no different from back then. They are rounding up, they've destroyed 36 hospitals. All 36 hospitals in Palestine were bombed and completely destroyed. What they do is they bomb an area, then they send in tanks and people, restricting anyone from coming to help the area. They make the hospital inoperable, and then they leave. And they did that 36 different times in hospitals, where they bomb it, they then go in and restrict it, they make sure it's all destroyed, or make sure people can't go in and save people or go in and help people who are like between them, and then once it's all said and done, they leave. And they did that numerous times at these hospitals. There's tons of footage of it. There's tons of evidence of it. It's not propaganda in the sense that in the same way that we've been propagandized of not even knowing what's going on, right? And our taxpayer money, $20 billion a year for the last 20 years has been going towards it. 20 years, 20 billion a year for 20 years. We are complicit in my eyes, right? And it's a sad thing that it's more important to be talking about these days. But what I was bringing up when I mentioned comparing it to back then, right? Not only are they destroying these areas in such a heinous way, not only are they restricting food from getting into these places where 1 in 3 children, not even 1 in 3 children, 1 in 3 people in Palestine go 3 days without food. In the one country with the most kids ever, not ever, but as a population, 50 or so % of people in Palestine are children, because to fight back against what they were doing or what was happening towards them, they were in mass population. It was baby booming, right? It was really just doing what they can to fight back, which was in that sense growing your population in mass. Most of what we're killing is kids, right? Not even Hamas, not terrorists, kids who are, when you do these things to them, you are only helping these terrorist recruiters, if you want to put it that way, the way we have army and stuff like that. Every time you bomb a building and there's a survivor, that dude's probably going to be so fucking mad at you. When you do that so many times, like, you're not helping your case when you're doing this indiscriminate collateral damage of a crime. You know what I mean? That's just how I feel about it. People want to come after me one day. It'll happen anyway. Just because, you know, Trump is so supportive of Israel. I'll probably get a drone strike in my house one day from our own country. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous where our money goes. And the way I wanted to compare it is, there's a documentary called Gazans, Doctors Under Attack. It's on YouTube. If you search those words, Gazans, or Gaza, Doctors Under Attack. You search those words up, you'll see an hour-long documentary. It's a very good documentary. But it makes it very clear that a couple of these people that, you know, that survived and have talked and have had interviews, and there's footage of them on the ground having things happen to them, and there's literally stories of them being there in November and then September and then, like, all throughout years, right? Like throughout months of this, right? Of these doctors and interviewing them, and lots of footage of their time in these places that are being bombed, right? And some of these people, when the IDF came, and I won't even call them the IDF, my bad, because they're not an Israeli Defense Force, they're IOF, an Israeli Offensive Force. So my fault there. But the IOF, when they did bomb these places and when they did go into it, right, they made sure to take all the healthcare workers. And if you were a healthcare worker, they made sure you were not one of the people that would be able to go. So they actually, the same way that in Germany in 1940s, where they would have kids and parents and like a father and his children and his his wife all walking up to a Gestapo, and the Gestapo decides, do you go to the left or the right? Remember that horror, that atrocity that we've all heard about, how inhumane that is? They were doing that to healthcare workers, not terrorists, not people who might be Hamas, healthcare workers, people who were actually there saving IDF soldiers that ended up in the hospital. They weren't just helping out in the hospital Palestinians. Even IDF soldiers were in those hospitals getting saved. And just like, it's so inhumane what's fucking going on over there. You know what I mean? So that's just a little bit. It's sad because that's a good core of the history to tell you of where it starts and the beginning of it, and then what's going on now. But that's only a droplet in the ocean of how bad it is. And it's fucked. It's sad. When we talk about 70 years of it, it's a lot. And when we talk about daily, it's 30 to 80 kids to parents a day. And it's sad. It's just, it shouldn't be happening. When we have these, like we just had in Congress 2 days ago or so, I don't like her. She's from the right, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't like her at all. She's a disgusting woman for her beliefs in a lot of things. But she had an amendment in Congress, in our House, where not House, in Congress, in our military appropriations budget bill that was getting passed a couple days ago. And she had made an amendment to it that they were going to vote on. Everybody was going to take a vote on. She made an amendment asking to defund 500 million of the 20 billion we give them a year. She wanted to take out 500 million of it, right? Not a lot, just 500 million. When we had the big beautiful bill pass July 4th, it was so balanced, right? I think it was 217 to 219 or 215 to 217. It only passed by 2 votes. Well, when it comes to Israel, and when it comes to a congresswoman trying to defund, not all of it, 5% or so, 500 million of 20 billion, not even 5%. Who wants to defund 1 in 40 or so, right? Well, we were so balanced, so hard to win when it comes to the big beautiful bill. Probably one of the most decisive things we've had recently, right? But when it comes to asking, can we defund 500 million of 20 billion, it went 422 to 6. 422 people believed in Congress that we should keep funding what Israel's doing to Palestine. 422 people not only are complicit, but a lot of them have their pockets filled with money from AIPAC, from foreign lobbyists. And it's just disgusting, both on the left side and on the right side. It's just disgusting. And I cry. Like, my heart cries out to the fact that not only are we complicit to this, not only is my mom, for the last 40 years, portions of our money that we, everybody, we're all complicit in this. And just the fact that your taxpayer money goes to it. You want to talk about potholes? You want to talk about random things where you're mad, you're upset, your taxpayer money is going to? You and me, everybody, it's not to judge a person. We are all aiding this. And it's just something that pisses me off, you know what I mean? I definitely went on a fucking rant there. So my bad, because I was kind of out of nowhere. But I kind of felt like I had to. And seeing this in this Hasanabi video is a good idea. We should watch this. I don't know if you've seen it. You probably have not. This is the Prime Minister of Israel having a very, very propaganda interview with the Nelk boys. You know about the Nelk boys? They're college frat boy type dudes on the right. They're not fit for a conversation like this. They're, no disrespect, kind of dumb. They're not journalists. They're not. They're somebody with a platform. And because they're in the White House, having such a monumental celebrity icon interview, they gave zero pushback. And so basically just this was 2 days ago. Basically just platformed the Prime Minister, mostly involved for what's going on in Palestine, mostly the person who's in the wrong. And the one person in the world comparable to Hitler is this person. Literally, the one person you could... People compare Trump to Hitler, and I could understand the fascist comparisons, but there's no comparison to Trump to Hitler, right? There just isn't, until the deportations lead to mass deaths. Then we could talk about that. Until we get to that point and see how inhumane he responds to that, let's not talk about him being Hitler. But when it comes to Netanyahu, there's a comparable analysis to debate there. That's just something that really gets me, right? But it's just sad that most people not only don't care about it, but when they do care about it, they're gonna believe the other side on this. And we could believe whatever side you want when it comes to these things. It is what it is. But one side is in the right and one side is in the wrong. And when you're doing drone strikes, not on terrorists, not on Hamas, but you're doing it on normal civilian house buildings, when you're taking bulldozers after you've already cleared everything out, killed everybody there, then you take bulldozers to Rafah, destroy everything for 6 months, and then decide this month to say, okay guys, we have an area we're going to move you all to. Everybody in Gaza, everybody in the West Bank, so 600,000 of you now, 2 million or so eventually, we're going to move you all to Rafah. And Rafah is just rubble. It's literally just piles of buildings that were once beautiful. Genuinely, not even like not modern. It was modern buildings destroyed to rubble. That acres, miles of it. No water. All the water supplies were also tarnished completely. But right now, this month, the plan Netanyahu here has is to move 700,000 people to that area that is inhospitable. There is no living condition there. Not only is there no living condition there, but these people you're moving there, they're going to find family members there. They're going to find people they knew under the rubble. How fucked are you? I'm sorry for yelling because I was loud on my mic, but how fucked is that, bro? You have no compassion for it. People like this dude that I'm going to show here in a minute. It's just mind-boggling to me. Sniper bullets to babies' foreheads directly right here on hundreds of them, not just a one-time account, but thousands. Alright, my fault there. My stream turned off. I had to fix it real quick. My stream key wasn't working. I thought they got me. I thought they took me off my Wi-Fi. Me off the Twitch. He said was wondering. Bro got a drone strike right there. But no, that's just a lot of how I feel on Israel. I'm gonna let the old man speak now. One funny thing about I'm gonna get, well, now that I got my rant off, I don't have to be so antagonistic or so much of an asshole or biased about it. I could just let it play. But I wanted to at least express my opinions or what my stance is or what I know about it. And I know a lot more, but I don't want to bore you with thousands of paragraphs, of history. It's just so messed up. It's disgusting. You know what I mean? And one thing we're gonna see on this that's kind of funny, or like at least one thing that I laugh at this dude reminds me so much of my 93-year-old grandpa. Like the way that he thinks of history, the way that he's warped, the way like this dude reminds me so much of my grandpa. The way he's stubborn. Well, like, I'll let it play now, but.
Before we get into it, if you guys have not tried out the Prize Picks app, you guys gotta try it out. You guys know me and all.
They're just not journalists, especially when it comes to these dudes. He said, I just logged into MMO trying to get familiar with it again. I saw you log in. First things they'll tell you is it's a really long history. It goes back so far. And then they try to excuse and minimize a lot. And they don't talk about a lot. Because before Hamas's October 7th, there was already 20 massacres in Palestine over 70 years.
Netanyahu, he's about to walk into the podcast right now. This is probably one of the most, if not the most controversial podcast we
For sure the most
have
we've
ever done.
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe not the most controversial we'll ever do.
Maybe not.
But
maybe though.
I mean, this issue is just like, and by the way, I want to say too, I'm not claiming to be an expert on this issue or anything like that. I'm kind of just probably like a lot of you guys that, you read stuff online. And I feel like on the internet now too, it's like, you don't even know what's real anymore. Like you read shit and it's like, you see a headline and it's like, is this true? Is this not true? So I see so much stuff about, what's going on in Israel and, Iran and Palestine. And to be honest, I just really don't know what is going on there. So it's going to be interesting to sit down with Prime Minister Netanyahu and kind of just ask him some questions about what we read online and
get educated.
Probably going to be a lot of hate in the comments and stuff like that. In my opinion, I mean, dude,
we're journalists, right?
We're technically journalists.
How can you pass up this opportunity at the end of the day?
No, and plus, at the end of the day, it's like we get the opportunity to sit down with one of the most powerful people in the world, a world leader.
Yeah.
And we get to ask him some stuff, and we're going to ask him what we want to ask him too. So if you guys, want to hear shit, whatever questions you guys want to hear, there's probably a ton of other interviews of him on CNN or like, typical news stuff. We're going to ask him what we want to ask him. So to me, this is crazy. Like how far we've come and we're get to sit down with world leaders.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane. So
yeah. I mean, for any backlash, this is just an opportunity, again, you can't really pass up. I don't see it. Like, there's no one else doing this.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. I'll sit down with any world leader in the world.
I agree.
I mean, my dream guest is Kim Jong-un.
Both
so
of
Kim
ours.
Jong-un, if you're watching this,
this is kind of
like
like
to
that.
come to North Korea and interview you.
All I can think about is the interview when we're doing
I'm
this.
so down to pull up to Moscow and interview Putin too.
Yeah, we'll do everybody.
This is what sets off podcasts. You could put a small microphone here, but no, you have to see this thing, right?
Yeah. Prime Minister Netanyahu with us today. We're here in the Blair House.
Yep.
Right? Is this the White House grounds?
Close.
Close.
It's the sort of the official guest house of the United States.
How have you seen like the White House and stuff? Like how has it evolved over the years, over the times of you visiting it?
I've met quite a few of the American presidents because I've been in office pretty long time. Not because we don't have elections, but because I've won quite a few of them, okay? I think there's never been a friend like Donald Trump in the White House for Israel. I think he's a remarkable leader. I think he's changing history. He said he'll make America great again. He's already done it. America is widely admired now around the world. And especially after our joint operation against this regime that wanted to, chance death to America, death to Israel. Well, I think together we've shown the world a different face of America. Very powerful, very directed, very resolute.
You guys are very tight, right? Would you call it a bromance?
Well, you might. I mean, we've known each other several decades, and I really like him.
What do you like
I-
most about him?
You know, if you meet him close up, and Sarah and I have had this opportunity many times, including last night.
I just want to say one thing. He mentioned his wife, and he mentions her a couple times, Sarah. And he tries making her look like she's an innocent person. She's also blackmailed people into buying her things. I think her name is Miriam Adelson, one of the richest people in the world. I think his name is Larry Adelson or something like that, the father. But my point with that is, she is a very close person to Netanyahu, right? The Adelson, or however it's said, family. They're very close with Netanyahu. In fact, one of the biggest sponsorships, probably the biggest sponsorship Netanyahu has funding his war beyond America, like outside of America, it's probably the biggest sponsorship he has, right? Funding him. And his wife, Sarah, has actually bribed that Miriam Adelson in a police room being investigated. She talked about a time where his wife blackmailed her to buy her a Tiffany necklace in a police room. It's all on video.
And a great dinner we had at the White House. First of all, Donald Trump can be very funny.
Of
You know,
course.
he can be very funny. He can
Especially off camera, right?
He can absolutely. He can split you sort of sit there and you start guffawing because it's so funny. And also, I'll tell you something else. That Sarah, who's a psychologist, and psychologists,
Of course.
they look at people,
Mm.
they identify very quickly with that. You know what she said to me about Donald Trump? She said he's a good person. He has a good heart. He wants to do good. And that is something that I think that you have to know him well to appreciate it. And the last thing I tell you about him, okay? I mean, I could tell you many things, but he cuts through the chase. You know, he cuts through the BS. I have to spell out what BS is. He cuts through the BS. He goes right to the point, to the heart of the matter. And sometimes he says things that get right to things that people don't want to really think through. And he cuts to the bone. And that is an amazing quality because it lets you focus on the things that are important. So it's been an incredible partnership, both personally, but also for our two nations.
Did you have any type of relationship with Biden?
Not the same. I've known Biden for, 40 years? Almost as long. Well, both of them. Over the decades, it was a different relationship. It was a friendship, but also it evolved into, how shall I say this? Severe disagreements.
Mm.
And with Donald Trump, we've had powerful agreements. And where there's no daylight between an American president and an Israeli prime minister, amazing things can happen. Like our common enemies who chant death to Israel, death to America, and want to develop atomic bombs and the means to deliver them to.
Talk about that for a second. Do you know about, we did what we did to Iran recently, right? With the Ayatollah situation. This dude's been saying this is a talking point everybody said at this point, but this dude's been saying they have bombs for 40 years, bro. For 40 years, he's been saying they're 2 weeks away. They're a month away. They're half a month away. He's been doing that for 40 years. Just remember that when you think of the Iran threat. And one other thing I want to say is Iran signed the NPT, the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty, in 1967. I'll even close my eyes. I'm not reading this off nothing. Signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty, and the nuclear one. It's a peace treaty nuke-wise. In 1967, this was a treaty where, in the sense of, when you sign it, you allow other countries to come and investigate your nuclear area, right? So make sure that see what you're doing, see if you're really gearing towards something. It's really just a thing to help measure what's going on. Are we climbing to a wartime? And the NPT is just a thing for the Middle East, right? To help keep peace in that sense, right? Iran signed it in 1967. There's been reports every year for the last 40 years, 50 years. They're all online on the IAEA website, International Atomic Energy something. I don't fucking know. IAEA. It's the acronym for it, right? All of the reports for every year since then is on that website, where you can read paragraph after paragraph of what people who were there investigating it found. And most of them are Iran being complicit with them. Now, do we remember them saying that Iran's hiding things, they're not being complicit with us, they're hiding things from us, they're not allowing them to the sites. They're all provable if someone actually was smart and wanted to take the time and go through them. But most Americans won't. When you go through and you read them, you see it's a different story. You know who didn't sign the NPT and doesn't allow for checks on their nuclear weapons? Because yes, they do have nuclear weapons. Israel. A place that has said for so long they don't have nuclear weapons. A place that we gave so much research and funding and help to, with the one the one asterisk saying we just won't help you with nuclear weapons, and we did. It is when the JFK files came out last year, 6-7 months ago, in the archive there was a long committee in our Senate that was in the transcript, in the documents. It was a transcript of a Congress meeting in the archives that was kept hidden, that is specifically on Iran, or not Iran, specifically on Israel getting help on getting to the point they're at now in nuclear stuff through us. That meeting, the long committee, confirmed it, right? This is a meeting from 20, 30, 40 years ago, okay? That we helped them get to the point they're at now with nuclear weapons. But when you Google what countries have nuclear weapons, it was only found out or realized that they have nuclear weapons this year, right? But you know who didn't sign the NPT? Israel. If we're so scared of Iran, and if we really want peace, maybe we should also be in it. And also, not us, but Israel. And also, when Iran is letting them do these IAEA checks, why are their scientists getting assassinated? When these checks happen, they realize they literally, the names of these people are in the IAEA reports, and numerous have been assassinated. What does that tell the Iranian people when you're doing that? Do you think they're going to be like, threat levels are up? Maybe we should really gear towards protecting ourselves, right? In 1970 with China, this is off topic for a second, but this just shows how America operates. 1970, it's actually on topic, actually very on topic. Good, my brain is genius. 1970, a Chinese ship, I think it was called like Wei Yu or Yu Wei, one name similar to that, was sailing from China to Iran. And we thought that ship was carrying chemical weapons. We thought that ship was carrying chemical weapons. Well, in that time of history, we actually had a good deal trades with China. You know, even in the 1900s, Chinese people and people from China were diplomats here, right? We've had decent agreements such for this entire 200-year history, right? It's not just 2020, right? Well, in 1970, at that point in time, China used our geographical technologies. When it comes to their naval ships, when it comes to the ships they used our technology. But when we thought in 1970s, we thought that ship was carrying chemical weapons to Iran, we disabled that ship's geographical navigation. That ship was stranded for a year. When it finally landed to a port or to a land in Saudi Arabia, we already had people there, Americans. We had CIA operatives or people waiting for them at the area, knowing they're going to be there, right? We board the ship, realized there is no weapons. It was just a normal ship. We thought wrong. Well, doing shit like that causes aggression, right? And when someplace like Iran agrees to these NPT treaties and they get these investigations and their people end up missing and dying, and we, at the entire time, Netanyahu's threatening they're so close to weapons, it doesn't look good for Israel. And you could talk about South Africa for Israel, you could talk about Syria, Lebanon, you could talk about Palestine. There are so many different countries that have a fucking hatred for Israel. It's a fucking pattern. Because not one humanitarian organization or human rights organization in the world believes that Israel is not committing genocide or is not complicit and involved and guilty of war crimes. Those are things that no person in an official sense in that manner disagrees with, right? It's a pattern. It's not just one country they do that to. And, you know, when we say, like, if you have no friends, right? If nobody likes you, it's probably not them that are the problem, right? Don't we always say that with people? Like it's you could boil it down to that as well. He said we're gonna have World War III soon, and once we do, it is over. I agree with that. I really do think we're already in World War III personally, but I agree with that. And it's just I brought up the Iran thing for another reason too. You know who else? Well, like we're so scared of Iran, right? We're so scared of Iran. They're saying death to America, death to Israel. They're the threat. You know who else is a threat in the Middle East that we should worry about more than Iran, considering Iran signed the NPT and allows these checks every year, including 2024, including 2025, including March of this year. They were allowing these checks every year, right? But you know who we should be worried about in the Middle East? Saudi Arabia. Way more power, way more authoritarian, way more dangerous, way more money, oil, and power. Way more of an influence. They have nuclear powers. They are not a part of the NPT. And I'm not saying go after them, but I'm saying you see that down the horizon and you go after this other thing that is helping, that is not to the same level of, yeah, there's a reason for this. There's no justification for it in my eyes. I only went on that Iran rant because he brought up Iran, right? And he brought that up, so I want to just rant about that for a minute. We got other threats we could deal with in that sense.
Amazing things can happen.
And when those bombs got dropped on Tel Aviv, them bombs were promised a long time ago.
Like our common enemies who chant death to Israel, death to America, and want to develop atomic bombs and the means to deliver them to this city and to every part of America. All of a sudden, they're not so intimidating. All of a sudden, we can defeat them. All of a sudden, you can use these brave American pilots who come from around the world, drop it right over the bunker, and help us end the amazing feats of our soldiers and pilots. That's an amazing thing. It's good for America. It's good for the security of every single American.
How do you feel about the Americans' opinion on Israel right now?
Well, look, I think the broad segments of the American public support Israel, but I'm concerned that
Sadly, yeah.
young people in America, some of them are getting the wrong picture of Israel, vilification, demonization. You can feed them a lot of lies. So the only way you can fight lies is with the truth. How do you fight lies? You tell the truth, and you have to tell it as often and as intensely as the lies that are leveled against you, and that requires an effort. It's like another battlefield, you know.
Mm.
And I'm doing this podcast, among other things, to reach young people.
Of course.
You guys are pretty young. I mean,
30 years old.
30.
30.
That's young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think the biggest misconceptions are about Israel?
Well, first of all, they don't know what kind of an open society it is, how pluralistic. I mean, we live in the heart of the Middle East, okay? Iran is not that far away. In Iran, they hang gays by cranes. In Israel, probably Tel Aviv is one of the, the most open, liberal-minded city on earth. Israel is a high.
We visited there, yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
completely different.
Our assistant's
Women.
gay too. He had a good time.
Well, you could vouch.
yeah, no, we all had a great
So,
time.
I mean, look at that. How about women, okay? Women in Iran, they shoot the women. They shot this extraordinarily brave and beautiful woman, shot on the sidewalk because she showed too much hair. In Israel, women are, you know what women, I'll tell you what the difference is, okay? So I had this young woman officer in my military secretariat. The prime minister has military secretariat and usually has a general and it has staff assistants. One of the staff assistants was this young woman pilot, navigator, on leave from the Air Force to do this work in the prime minister's office. You know what she did now? She was flying over the skies of Tehran, attacking this horrible regime that tyrannizes the women in Tehran. That's the difference. The women there get shot on the sidewalk, and an Israeli woman pilot helps liberate Iran, quite the women of Iran. And boy, that's a big difference. And that's true of everything. It's true of nightlife. It's true of the startup nation,
Like, I'm someone who there's only a very few people on Earth I believe should die. And I mean it when I say it that way. I know words could be phrased differently. There's only a few people I believe that are on Earth still should die. Diddy's one of them. Beyond Diddy, I can only think of one other off the top of my head. We're looking at him. Netanyahu. I genuinely, those are the only two people on this planet I wish were not here. And that's a crazy thing to say about anybody, right? But to me, it really stands as a testament to how little this dude cares about what he's doing and how much he probably believes his own bullshit at this point and is just so warped that he's willing to rewrite history. It's just so disgusting to me the way this dude operates.
The incredible ingenuity and entrepreneurship, incredible freedom. Israel is a I would say is a paragon of freedom in an area that doesn't exactly enjoy freedom. And to have young Americans march and support these mass rapists, these people who beheaded men, who
I don't know if you're talking about Israel, because you should be talking about Israel.
burned babies alive. I'm talking about the Hamas monsters. Is that their ideal?
Also, keep in mind when we have people, because nobody here is pro in America. We know about these Palestine protests, but 99% of them are not pro Hamas. None of them. We are willing to condemn Hamas the same way we condemn you and the IDF, but IOF, right? We condemn it the same way, but there needs to be a solution. There has to be. And the way we're going about this is ridiculous, right? It's that simple. It's not pro-Hamas. It's not pro-terrorists. It's not pro people that are, doing the things that he just said. But the way he'll make it look that way when you have people on the streets saying free Palestine. Because there's millions of people that are not the 25,000 we're talking about.
Support these mass rapists, these people who beheaded men, who burned babies alive. I'm talking about the Hamas monsters. Is that their ideal? They know nothing. I mean, they don't know what they're talking about. And I want to bring that truth to them. So Israel is a great free society and the best partner that America has anywhere on earth.
Great people there for sure. When we've
I'm gonna let it keep playing. I'll still be hearing it, but I'm gonna walk away, help my mom with. She's getting home from work, so I'm gonna help her out at the garage. Then I'll be back. I'm gonna use the restroom before that, but I'll miss like 5 minutes of this. I'll still be hearing it. I just won't be responding or pausing.
visited, everyone was so welcoming and people were inviting us over for dinner and stuff. But I see, like, that's the thing too. I'm not claiming to be an expert too, but I'll just read stuff on like X and like people will say like Israel's killing babies or like they're starving people.
That's completely false. In fact, the reason we have civilian casualties in Gaza is because Hamas, who are basically horrible murderers and killers, okay, committed to our destruction and your destruction. They say so openly. I mean, they say the big enemy, the real enemy, the great Satan is America. And Israel is the small Satan. But it's a small Satan that is standing in their way of conquering with other Iranian proxies, conquering the Middle East, and then we move on to you. So America is the great Satan, and America, needs to disappear. And we stand in their way. But one of the things you have to understand is Gaza is the densest urban environment you can find, and Hamas embeds itself in the civilian population of Gaza, the Palestinians, okay? We tell the Palestinians, hey, leave, because after they butchered us and raped our women and beheaded our men and burned our babies, we have to remove this threat. So we come in to take care of the Hamas terrorists. But the Hamas terrorists don't leave the civilian neighborhoods. And we say to the civilians, we call them up because we have their telephone numbers. We say, leave, please leave. We send them leaflets, millions of leaflets, please leave. We do everything that is possible that no army has done. They want to leave. You know what Hamas does? They shoot them. You say, we want you to stay because we want to have civilian casualties, because then they can show it on CNN or all these other networks and so on and claim that Israel is deliberately doing this. We're not deliberately doing anything. We'd like them to leave. And in fact, successively during the war, it's been now a year and a half, they finally do leave, most of them. So we've minimized those casualties, but it's not because we seek to have civilian casualties, it's because Hamas wants them. They're willing to sacrifice their own children, their own families, both because they don't really care for human life, but also because they think it's very good propaganda against us. And if they just let them leave the war zone, get to the safe parts, safe havens that we've created in Gaza, no one would be hurt. And the minute Hamas lays down its arms, surrenders, maybe we let them leave Gaza, that's the end of the war. No one gets hurt.
What would your message be to Palestinians that just want to have like a peaceful life?
Get rid of Hamas. Help us get rid of Hamas. They torment you. They oppress you. They shoot you in the back of the head. If you want to leave the war zone, they kill you. And if you say a word in protest, they'll kill you. If you're gay, you're in bad shape, really bad shape. And if you are a woman, you're chattel, you're nothing. You're property. That's the opposite of everything we believe in. We, I say, it's not only Israel, it's you.
Mhm.
So we're the same.
How do you respond to, like, I'd say there's a lot of American support from the females, from the gays towards Palestine. So how does that make any sense? Based
That's,
off-
gays for Gaza is like chickens for KFC. I mean, that's insane. The whole thing is absurd. Chickens for KFC, right? Gays for Gaza, or, women for the women of Gaza. What are you talking about? They're completely subjugated. They've got this death cult that is contaminated. So you can push this stuff on TikTok or whatever on the stuff, but you can't build peace or security on the rocks. They'll crash. I mean, these things will crash on the rocks of Middle Eastern realities. You can only build peace on truth and reality, not on deliberate, falsified fantasy.
Why do they say Israel's like starving the people of Gaza?
Well, because we're trying to get the food in, and we let food trucks in, and guess what happens when we let them in? Hamas steals the food, takes the good chunk for itself, then sells at inflated prices.
Two things I'll get at since he's been talking about / is talking about. One, they have given us zero proof that any Hamas has actually taken food. The closest thing that there is any proof of is local gangs and just people in general stealing from other people because they are all starved. They all want the food, and only one person gets the potato that gets dropped to the ground. Only one person gets that bowl of soup, and maybe you might hand out 5, 6, 7, but you don't have enough for everybody. And so a lot of the food that gets stolen is from other Palestinian people. A lot of it is stealing each other's food. It is sad. Beyond that, he is right when he talks about the density of the population and that they hide among the people and that brings collateral damage. But the way that we're going about it is not the way we should to minimize the collateral damage. In the GHF, global humanitarian food, whatever, places where they're actually giving these people the food, where first off, there is only one aid site left. All of the other aid sites, so safe zones that the Israeli forces have told them to go here to go to the safe place, the safe area, where we have aid zones where your citizens are okay, and then we bombed them. We bombed the safe zones. Not 1, not 2, 5 to 6 to 7. There is one left. It is the GHF, a United States and Israeli combination of a help organization that is mostly Israeli sponsored and operated through, that 800 Palestinians in the last month or two have died at. That is 800 Palestinians who have died at an aid site, the only aid site left, the one he is talking about them getting food from. 800 people were shot while there getting food, not being riled up, not attacking someone, just shooting at people there. Cindy McCain, John McCain's widow, actually does a lot of participating in the humanitarian groups that go there, and she had said that recently this week when they went there, this recent 2 week period, that by the time they actually got through the gates and were able to start making their way to the area, 1,000 or so Palestinian people were running towards them, and that once they were giving out food and resources, they were shot at numerous times for minutes to 20 minutes or so by Israeli soldiers. So the way he makes this look is ridiculous. Everything I've said you could look up.
They jack up the prices and then they sell the food to its population, to its hungry population, if they give them at all. And then use the money that they take from their own people to recruit more killers into their terror machine. That's what happens.
Why are more Palestinians not siding with Israel against Hamas then?
Well, up to now, they've been terrorized. But guess what's happened? Since we're beating Hamas, all of a sudden we see Palestinians rising. You have to see this to believe this, okay? And they say to Hamas, hey, you're not coming into my building. You know, you can't use my school or this hospital as your command post. We're not letting you. And they start fighting them. Now we have actually armed conflict between Palestinians and terrorists. It was unimaginable a year and a half ago. But now there are Palestinians who rise up. And, you know, the more the better, because we can create a different future for Gaza. And we should also do something very simple that President Trump said, and it was brilliant. So that's my idea. That's how he cuts to the chase. He says, you know, at the end of this war, the people of Gaza should have the choice. If they want to leave for other countries, they want a freedom of choice. Why are they locked in? Hell, we're not locking them in. Anybody could.
Here's my biggest rebuttal to that. The only time in America I can think of that 99% of Americans were on the same page. Because it's America, 360 million people, you're never going to believe, and everyone on the same page on a subject, on a topic. We're always going to be divided and try to find common ground. But the one thing 90% of Americans, 90 to 99%, were all in agreement on was 9/11. Now, some people might felt different in the ways they felt, but we all not only felt patriotism and wanted something else done, but the complicity to it and the willingness to engage. 90 or so percent of Americans felt it's justified, still do. A fat percentage of that, I'd say 70 to 80% still do, right? And 90 to 99% will tell you there's a reason we went into the Middle East. There's a reason. It's because of what happened, right? Everyone will agree on that. That's why we did it, right? And we were all on the same page on that. Now, can you think of any other time in history where 90% of Americans agree on anything? I can't, at least. Now, if you take that into a different country's thought process, when October 7th happened, he said that isn't why we went to the Middle East, in my opinion. I agree with that. We, you know, high up officials wanting Poppy, but can you agree that that's the common person? We're on the common people, not the high ups that made the choice, but the common people's thoughts on it is what I'm talking about, in a sense, right? I could agree to your point. But the premise of my thing, he's as the excuse that we used, and 90 to 99% of Americans not only felt it was justified, were willing to go. Like, what was the biggest, in recent years, I'll say, 50 years, recent 40 to 50 years, the biggest boom in people wanting to join military? 9/11. And sure, that's only a portion. It's not like everybody went, but it was something where most of America felt they were justified in enacting something on another country, right? That's the main premise of it. And I can't really think, he said the main, yeah, I would say oil, poppy being heroin, you know, poppy plants, poppy growing. There's a lot of nefarious reasons to it, right? I could agree to that. But my point really stands on how the American person justified or excused the doing of it, the way that we justified it, right? I can't think of any other time in history where almost everybody is on the same page, right? Now, if we looked at October 7th, when Hamas did 1,200 casualties, killed 1,200 people that were citizens in Israel, that were at concerts, that were just enjoying themselves, because Hamas is also extremely in the wrong for a lot of their stuff, and this is one of them. But I will say, when it happened, 90 to 99% of people in Gaza were celebrating. The videos that I saw on Twitter, the videos some of you saw on Twitter, we cried over. We were insanely bug-eyed. Didn't turn the computers up, didn't want to see more. They were all celebrating it. Now, what gets a population to that point? Because it would be divided if not, if there wasn't some reason to it.
Would leave. That's my idea. That's how he cuts to the chase. He says, you know, at the end of this war, the people of Gaza should have the choice. If they want to leave for other countries, they want a freedom of choice. Why are they locked in? Hell, we're not locking them in.
The disgusting thing with that word, that phrasing of it, hell, we're not locking them in. For the last 70 years, if you were a leader, the top official, the most proficient, well-respected, top of the ladder, cream of the crop, you're the number one person in the world right now in your country, still had to go through checkpoints, Israeli checkpoints. Just like how when we go through borders, they still had to get checked. Most of these people don't get allowed through. There's literally miniguns mounted to the wall above their head when they're going through it. You want to talk about, hell, we're not locking them in. We're not doing none of that stuff that the weird white guy just said. We're not doing none of that stuff. Don't look it up though. Don't look at the photos. Don't go hear from people who actually, lived through it.
Should have the choice. If they want to leave for other countries, they can't build peace or security on the I'm not offended. Just the said, and it was brilliant. So that's my idea. That's how he cuts to the chase. He says, you know, at the end of this war, the people of Gaza should have the choice. If they want to leave for other countries, they want a freedom of choice. Why are they locked in? Hell, we're not locking them in. Anybody could leave, but Hamas is locking them in. Suppose they want to leave. They want to go to another country, okay? Why shouldn't they have the freedom of choice to do that? Because this is all upside down, you know? The victim of this horrible terrorism is called the aggressor. The people who are oppressed by Hamas are seen as supporting Hamas. Give them a choice. Give them freedom. Give them a life and give them a future. They can't have that with these Hamas stormtroopers. But the amazing thing is, I come here and I see these protests. The people who are protesting for Hamas and against Israel, they burn American flags. They not only burn the flag of Israel, they burn American flags. They're anti-American. They're not.
Not once have I burned my own flag, but I will condemn my own country for the atrocities we've committed. Whether it's the Tuskegee experiments, whether it's allowing Nazis in after World War II, whether it's the 3/5 and the Oregon Trail and all the bullshit we did with Native Americans and the Andrew Jackson and the Louisiana Purchase. There's so much fucked shit that you're not anti-American for saying, yeah, we're wrong for that. You're just on the right side of history. I'm sorry, but the way that's just nah, not accepting that shit. I'll condemn atrocities my own country has done, but not once have I burned an American flag. And I'm gonna be here, California. I'll probably be moving states eventually, but I'm here in America my entire life until that nuke hits. I'm here, and I'm not moving to France. I'm not moving to Europe. I'm not moving to Japan. I'm here. I'm an American. I'm a proud American, but I'm proud of the fact that I could call out the bullshit. And he could say that, but take my lived experience. I support all the things Palestinian side in regards to what the atrocities Israel is doing. And I don't consider myself in any way like the way he just tried categorizing, people who believe that. And most people on that side probably are like me.
The people who are protesting for Hamas and against Israel, they burn American flags. They not only burn the flag of Israel, they burn American flags. They're anti-American. They're not MAGA. They're not supporters. Who do they support? You know who they support? They support Iran and its proxy, Hamas or Hezbollah. What does Iran do? Just understand, people who
By that same logic, if you're extremely supportive of Israel, you're not American. By that same logic, if you extremely support what another country is doing in general, you're not American. Only focus on yourself. You're supposed to be selfish. By his same logic, if you just twist it to the other person and just don't blame one side, don't say it only for one side. If you look at it the other way, it's the same thing, except it's not true. It's just a way you could try and phrase it that way. It's just not true.
what is it? Who support Iran or speak on its behalf? Iran tried to assassinate President Trump not once but twice.
They were behind those assassination attempts.
They openly admit. By the way, they put out a price on his head, on mine too. By the way, smaller price.
We're gonna get to that conspiracy. Pretty sure BlackRock's behind the assassination attempt on his earlobe, and there's a lot of weird things that a lot of people have talked about in that time. Whether it's the commercial that the shooter was in for BlackRock, whether it's the stock price, the stock drop. Was it the drop or a raise? But it was very much market manipulation. I'll just say that. I don't remember if it was up or down, but somebody either took out money or put more money in because they knew what was about to happen, because the price of BlackRock either went extremely up or extremely down right after his assassination, and it was the day before. And that same company that happened to, market manipulation-wise, the shooter was in a commercial for. Quite the coincidence. Not only did that market manipulation happen the day before, but also that the shooter was in a commercial for that company a year before it. Just saying, probably a fall guy. Don't think that's Iran. In fact, that was a white guy from just a random state.
I'm not offended.
They actually put a price on your head?
Yeah, 2 days ago.
Do you know what it is?
Do you know how
Yeah,
much?
it's smaller than his, naturally. He's the president of the United States, for God's sake, okay? So they put out a fatwa 2 days ago, or 3 days ago, by the official cleric of the Iranian regime that President Trump has to be assassinated and that I have to be assassinated. And by the way, they targeted Sarah, my wife, was here, and they targeted our bedroom window. Yeah, we were supposed to be there. They hit through their proxy Hezbollah. They fired a drone right into our bedroom window. So
Just recently?
Oh yeah, it was a couple of months ago. Yeah.
Wow.
No, it was a year ago actually. Yeah, a year ago. Okay. So how many months? 7 months. 7 months ago. She counts.
When you lie a lot, it's kind of just slips off the tongue. So I'm not even gonna talk about that. We're gonna let that slide. When you lie a lot, it just slips off the tongue. I get it.
So they tried to assassinate President Trump twice. They've killed and injured thousands of Americans in Iraq and Afghanistan. They bombed American embassies. They murdered 241 Marines in Beirut. They chant death to America, death to Israel. They're out to get America. They were building atomic bombs and intercontinental ballistic missiles. That's their plan to reach America. So do you want these mad Ayatollahs to have that power? Of course not. So they're anti-American, they're anti-Israel. And the guys who protest, and many of them are
Whoa, guys, they're chanting death to Arabs. Maybe we should blame them the same way that we're blaming Iran for saying death to Israeli and death to Israel. Whoa, guys, here's the same thing happening in Israel. Here's Israel doing the same thing.
I'm seated now in the old city of Jerusalem, in the Muslim quarter, where, as you can see behind me, thousands of young Israeli ultranationalists are descending on the city for Jerusalem Day. It's an annual march commemorating for them the reunification of Jerusalem when Israel seized East Jerusalem, the West Bank, and religious sites holy to Christians, Muslims, and Jews in the 1967 Mideast War. Now, this is seen by Palestinians as a provocation. I'm in a Palestinian area, as I said. Most of the shops have had to shutter. Police are trying to keep the peace between the few Palestinians that remain in this area and the protesters. I've heard racist slogans chanted, death to Arabs, songs like May Your Village Burn. I'm hearing the protesters banging on the local Palestinian homes. This march today threatens to only inflame tensions in Jerusalem.
That's not even the one I was looking for, too. Oh, this is 4 years ago. Hey, guys, that last one was a month ago. Here's one from 4 years ago. Wow. The second Nakba is coming is crazy. There is no way. That is literally like if I said, which I'm going to say it for comparability, but I do not believe this at all. At all. At all. And I am very much a condemner of German history. Extremely, extremely against German, right? But that phrase is the same as saying the second Holocaust is coming. That is coming soon. That is the same comparison, because what Nakba means in Palestinian language, I'm forgetting the language, my fault, but just bear with me because, you know, I'm a white dude from California. Nakba means catastrophe, massacre. And the Nakba was the 1948 that I mentioned, where 700,000 Palestinians, 700,000, were either killed or relocated out of Palestine. They were exiled, in a sense, by Israeli authority coming into the country, not by their own country's choice. So that type of phrase is as bad as what I tried searching for. You know what I mean? You know, if Netanyahu wants to talk about one side doing it, maybe you should condemn your own people. Maybe you should say, hey guys, we shouldn't be doing that. In fact, he actually advocates for Israeli settlers. When I mentioned Zionism earlier, where the core of Zionism is expanding Israel's land until eventually there is no more Palestinian people. That's the goal of it. That's literally when you Wikipedia what Zionism means, right? And Israel has had a thing for the last many, many, many years of Israeli settlers. And that is when they go into people's houses, they kick them out of their houses, they kill them, rape them, murder them, force them to leave, whatever, and that house becomes theirs. That is how Israel expands into Palestinian territory. So this type of stuff pushes for that type of stuff, and that type of stuff is a war crime. And I thank the Lord and everything good on this earth that there are not only Jewish people, rabbis, and people in Israel that understand exactly everything I've said and agree with me. It's not everybody. And it's I hate to generalize because it's not something to generalize. It is the country itself, specifically when it comes to the high up officials and the government running it now, and the propaganda influence they've done to their people. It is not necessarily their people's fault for being corrupted. It is just what's happened, right? And that's not to excuse anything happening. That is just saying that what's happening now is wrong.
Are paid and organized by foreign NGOs, bad people. They're out against America. They hate Israel because they see Israel as part of America. And you know, in many ways, they're right.
I'm just trying to figure it out too, because even in New York City, right? What's Zoran?
Yeah.
He's an anti-Semitic guy. And
Yeah.
the highest, I think the highest population of Jews in New York City. How's that even possible?
Well, it's possible because a lot of people have been taken in by this nonsense. I mean, what? You want to defund the police? You want to have people go into stores and, rob them and be free? You think that really creates a good society? You want to crush all enterprise? You want to tax people to death? I mean, that's a one-term effort, but, sometimes you have to get mugged by reality to understand how stupid that is. So that's silly, but, sometimes folly overtakes human affairs for a while, but not for long, because reality steps in. So I'm obviously not happy with it, but I'm less concerned with it, because I think if we can speak the truth to the young people of America, they wise up pretty quickly.
Is the war with Iran, is it over now? After President Trump did authorize the strike and they destroyed the nuclear program, was
Well,
that
it certainly helped, it did, but I'll tell you what happened. We were like a person with 2 lumps of cancer, okay, that threatened our life. The first one's the nuclear cancer. Would have taken them within a year, they would have had atomic bombs, which they openly declared in the Tyrants of Tehran. They said, we're going to destroy Israel, the Jewish state. The other threat that we had, another lump of cancer, was these ballistic missiles. Now, you got to understand, this is like a bus. So with a ton of TNT, okay, explosives, comes down at Mach 8, and boom, just destroys everything in sight. Israel is the size of New Jersey, okay? So it's bigger than Rhode Island, but that's...
Want to talk about bombs, Netanyahu? I got you on this talking point too. I got you beat. In the last 20 years, since 2005, not even the last 70 years, 2005, Israel has dropped over 100,000 tons of nuclear mass, kilograms weight of bombs. 100,000 tons. I'm gonna just leave it there. I don't even have to keep going with what I could have kept going with it. I don't even have to defend that. You just say that and that's enough, really.
That's about it, It's the size of New Jersey. Now, you imagine that you would have 20,000 of these ballistic missiles, these 1-ton bombs on New Jersey. So you either get destroyed by atomic bombs or by thousands and
Can you imagine it? Can you imagine that, guys? An entire country being reduced to rubble? I haven't seen a good example of that in so long, and I don't live near any of them. It's not like I'm, pretty close to one, like 6 kilometers away, like Israel, I'm not that close to one. I don't know what that looks like, but I think this guy actually knows what that looks like. So it's harder for me to imagine it, you know what I mean? The hypothesis of just New Jersey just being flattened in a minute, But I think this guy has actually witnessed it with binoculars and enjoyed the moment and probably jerked himself in that moment and ejaculated to it. So I think this guy knows what he's talking about on this one. He's definitely got me beat. He knows what that looks like.
thousands of these deadly ballistic missiles.
So you think there's still a threat and they want to...
Well, we had to act.
Yeah.
Why do we have to act? Because if you don't remove the cancer, you're going to be dead. Now, if you remove it, as we did, it might come back. That happens in cancer too. But if you don't remove it, you're not going to be there. So we had to act. We did act. And just with incredibly brave soldiers.
But is there a chance of peace with this current regime?
Not with the regime. but with the Iranian people. And I think they've had enough. 80% of them want to throw these theological thugs out. They're just, intimidated by secret police that has, that just shoots them. But I think that there's a chance that the Iranian people will actually rise up, because everybody talks about regime change and they envision, the American army and the Israeli, the IDF forces invading Iran, boots on the ground, and all that other nonsense that people spewed forth. No, we took action to remove those two life-threatening threats, the nuclear threat and the ballistic missile threat, and we removed it. We pushed it away for many years. But ultimately, it's up to the people of Iran to rise up against their tormentors. And I think there's a possibility it will happen. And then we could have peace. We had peace with Iran before that. Before the Ayatollahs took over, in 1979, we had direct flights between Tel Aviv and Iran. We're two ancient peoples. We had a great partnership over many years. We have a common history together. And it's sort of interrupted by this thuggery. But when this regime goes down, you're going to see peace between us like you never believed it.
That'd be nice, because I think one thing Americans don't want to see is everyone has post-traumatic stress from trying to do regime change in Iraq and the past Middle Eastern wars.
Why do it? That doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It has to come from within the people, and the people are.
I'm sorry, that's so much bullshit. It definitely worked in the America's favor for the way they wanted it with all of our regime changes. Actually, I'll say we probably had 10 to 20 really bad ones, like failure. We've had a lot of failures, but the corruption of America worked. Because anytime we saw a country grow, whether it's democratically or more for the people, best way to put it, for the people, we went in, we toppled the government. Even Palestine, 2004, the year before Palestine leader Hamas became the leaders of Palestine in regards to power and influence. The year before that, we actually had CIA operations that are unarchived, that are now in archive.gov, that are our CIA going into Palestine. 2004. We do things all the time. It's not that it's morally right, but if you say it doesn't work, you're bullshitting, because you're not in it for the people. You know what the reasons, the nefarious reasons we did these things, and for those reasons, for the goal of those reasons, not the goal of what's good or bad, but for the goal of what America wanted to do, it almost always worked out. Anytime we saw a country growing, becoming a threat, a sizable threat, we went in and made it less of a threat. It worked out in our favor. Us being here today shows that.
Yeah.
And so I just think the way he said that, he's just talking through his teeth.
They're great people. The Iranian people are great people. I sometimes do these podcasts to them. It's not a podcast. I mean, I do I do a video. Okay, so 3-4 minutes. I tell them that we would happily cooperate with them, solve their water crisis. Israel has the best water management in the world. We could give it. They don't have water in Iran, even though they have. They don't have electricity, even though they swim in oil. Because it's so corrupt and so badly managed.
For the record, and when I say it, I don't mean water bottles, but they do have water in Iran. They do. Nice try dehumanizing them even more. Weirdly enough, just the way you did it. I'm so used to him dehumanizing people, but just the weird fucking way he tried pulling that up.
So I give these podcasts.
In fact, Iran actually has red water, if you don't know, because if you wanted to say that they don't have proper sources of water, I agree, Netanyahu, for the most part, but they do have normal lakes. And then aside from normal lakes and ponds and oceans and like ways for water, aside from those and oases, aside from those things, in their more mineral, heavy density in minerals areas, because of the minerals that are pushing out of the ground that are like copper and other different things, when the water hits the ground and sits in there for a long time, it actually becomes red. And so there's footage online of like water that's just completely red, like a waterfall, like falling down, and just like ponds and such. That's in Iran, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not bullshitting right now. But I'm pretty sure I'm like 90% sure that was Iran. That at least some of that comes from. That could be a national, like not national, not like a geographical wonder, but you know how like so many things like Stonehenge, there's only one of them. I'm pretty sure there's not just one red lake. Pretty sure there's a couple places on Earth that are highly dense in minerals the same way that is there. So it's not just that one place, but I just say that to say, in fact, they even have that. Don't know why he tried dehumanizing them that way.
Yes. You know what I see? Millions and millions and millions of views.
In fact, if he wanted to dehumanize them in a way, he probably should have said that those red lakes are blood lakes. You probably should have said they're killing so many people that their lakes are red. You just go full Trump, where it's like technically you're true, but the way you came to that's wrong. You could have just made it like the sky's falling. You could have just made a stupid analogy that technically you're right, but like I mean that one's just not right. The sky's not falling. You know what I mean? But like I'll leave that alone. But like if he wanted to dehumanize them in a way that would get stupid people, that's how you would. Because then they could look it up and they'll see them and they'll be like, oh, it's real.
The first time they showed me this, I said, no, it can't be. I said, no, Prime Minister, look. I mean, you got, I don't know, 15 million views. I mean, the whole population of Iran is
They're
about
watching, right?
90 million. So I said, oh, wow, that's amazing. You know what the amazing thing is? They have names. The people,
Like literally, I'm not joking when I say he's dehumanizing people. I'm not like you're hearing the same. Anyone here is hearing the same words I'm hearing. It's not one sentence that's like, oh, whoops, it slipped my mouth. I won't do it again. My voice went hoarse. I won't do it again. He literally just said that he's shocked that they have names. Right after the lake thing, the no water. That is, how else do you dehumanize people? I mean, there's many ways, but I'm sorry if I'm just over analyzing this grandpa dude
identify
who is a war criminal by every humanitarian group out there and the United Nations.
themselves. So you understand, in a tyranny like this, if people speak out, they really want, you know what they want? Freedom. They want their freedom. They have, they have this slogan. Well, it's women, freedom. The women want to be free. The men want to be free. And Israel wants them to be free. And I think America wants them to be free. But it's up to them. Ultimately, it's up to them. And I think they're getting closer and closer to the day when this horrific regime disappears. That'll be good for America. So it's not conquest. It's not American boots on the ground. For God's sake, everybody said World War III, remember? If the president enters, you got these experts, paid experts, silly experts. America, World War III, it's war between China and America, and you have to invade Iran and all that nonsense. Hell no. I mean, very brave and persistent pilots, they go in, drop this thing in the bunker, come back, not a single American casualty. And by the way, not a single Israeli casualty. Our brave pilots flying over the skies of Tehran. Nothing.
How did President Trump let you know about that mission?
You ever hear of phone calls?
So what, but he just called you up and said, Prime Minister,
I don't think it
we're
was
bringing in the B-2s?
I don't think it was an open line,
Pretty sure when we are in wartime and we're flying our planes over enemy territory, that we should be worried about it. Like we're going to be threatened. Kind of coincidental that some of the places he's going after don't even have a means of doing anything, yet we're still doing like that just shows like even we didn't lose anybody. Yeah, no shit. They're throwing rocks. Like there's also missiles in parts. Some of them were actually stolen by Israel, that when Hamas stole, it was found that they were actually United States missiles, right? Like we have some of our own United States missiles that have been shot at Israel because of Hamas taking them from Israel, because they were being used against Hamas in Palestine. So we do have missiles being lobbed, but for the most part, like these people are not gladiators with mega weapons of death. like it's that's the whole talking point of my thing, where it's like there are other ways we could be going about it rather than the collateral damage, you know?
But you know, we have these great conversations. We're very open with each other, and he said it's like a team that has never happened before, and I can categorically vouch that, having worked with successive American presidents, I've never seen anything like it. And it's trust, it's affinity, it's understanding that, you know, we're fighting for a greater purpose, and that we can do so very intelligently and very differently from the way that is being portrayed in the media. And we just had proof. You know, all these guys, you know, they're sitting there. Yeah, if President Trump is foolish enough to do this, it's going to start World War III. It's going to embroil America in another
He said, okay, gonna get some dinner, talk later. Sounds good, Taz. You have a good one?
Vietnam. You heard this stuff? You remember this?
Mm-hmm.
This is yesterday. They talked about it with such authority and you know, and seeming expertise. That's all nonsense.
Yeah.
It just turns out to be nonsense, pure, utter nonsense. And the president had the temerity and the leadership to disavow these so-called experts and do the right thing, and to do it with great resolution, great clarity, and with great transparency between us. You don't have to tell the Iranians, but we tell each other.
All right, guys, we're going to interrupt really quick. I want to let you guys know about MoonPay, because whenever I need to do anything crypto
Just interesting.
No, man.
on this podcast and potentially get canceled.
Do you have any type of relationship with Kim Jong-un?
No,
Nothing.
no,
Just interesting.
no. The answer is no.
I think you definitely have a tough job, but why do you think you're like so hated worldwide?
Well, a lot of propaganda. First of all, I'm not hated worldwide. I just received this. I just talked to someone.
I'm curious because he says he's not persecuted. I'm pretty sure like every single human rights group has came out against him. Largely not disputed the allegations against him. Human rights groups have largely not disputed the allegations. I wonder what that means. Would you say someone that is, like, I don't know what else you call widely persecuted beyond the way you could describe the way other people are going after Netanyahu?
A rabbi. The answer is no.
I think you definitely have a tough job, but why do you think you're like so hated worldwide?
Well, a lot of propaganda. First of all, I'm not hated worldwide. I just received this. I just talked to someone, a rabbi, and he says he just heard from his brother, who was in Europe, okay, and one of the countries of Europe, and he says that he's being flooded. You know, they know he's from Israel. All the people are coming and they say, "You did this amazing thing for all of us," okay. The Chancellor of Germany said Israel did the work for all of us, the new Chancellor of Germany, okay? I hear, you know, they had the G7. The president told me they were all going crazy. I mean, you know, in a positive way. Because we liberated them, because those Iranian missiles were geared at Europe too, and ultimately at America with nuclear warheads. So we had the guts to do this. And, you know, the propaganda is there. I don't deny it. But people also have, you know, sometimes the truth beckons. And what Israel did with President Trump is safeguard free societies from a menace. I mean, this Iranian regime hangs gays from cranes, shoots women on the sidewalk for not covering their hair, you know, oppresses their people, spreads terrorism worldwide, kills Americans wholesale, tries to murder the American president, the former Secretary of State, the former national.
Yeah, the only thing I disagree with him is when he starts bringing up American assassinations. Everything else he said there is right, and that I'm being wrong in. and that he's not lying, that all those things are fact check provable, right? But once he brings up the Trump assassination and brings up other people, it's here in America.
Security advisor. So people's heads, if people are turned that way, the question you have to ask is not why do they hate me or President Trump, is why don't they see reality? Why don't they see what's good for them? And the answer is most of them do if you tell them the facts. But how do you tell them the facts over TikTok? You guys are there. You tell me. What's the suggestion? You got any ideas for me?
I don't think it's the Iran thing. The main thing I just see is if I don't think people like if civilians are getting injured or killed.
We don't want it either.
Yeah.
Well, I think the other issue too is you see there's a lot more Palestinian protests. You don't see very many Israeli protests. So you're going to see that on TikTok.
It's organized, it's systemic, but it doesn't make it true. I mean, so what? Yeah, you have it. But what are they protesting for? I mean, look, most of the Arab world has made peace with Israel. We've had 4 historic peace accords. People said you can never have peace because the Palestinians, you first have to solve the Palestinian issue. Well, the Palestinians have been fighting this for 100 years before there was even a state of Israel. And they're not fighting for a state. They don't want a state next to Israel. They want a state instead of Israel. And they teach.
The Oslo Accord. Or was it the Camp David Accord? My memory is so jumbled. Sorry, I'm irritated by this dude. But one of the major peace agreements that he's talking about, I'm not too well versed on everything Palestinian history, but one of them he is talking about 30% of the population was to get 60% of the land. Is that a fair contract? I ask you to work for me for $7.25, and I'm living in California where minimum wage is not the $7 like it usually is, and it's at 16 something, but I give you a contract for $7.25 and I decline it. Should I then walk home, get home, and be told by someone, oh, well, you had an opportunity. You could have worked. Yeah, I probably could have. But is it right to devalue myself that much to be able to do it? In hindsight, in certain circumstances, it could be good, right? When you look at it from their perspective now, because now they're looking at 20% of the West Bank area being theirs. They're looking at 20% of Gaza being theirs instead of 40% of the land. Actually, yeah, 40% of the land would have been theirs, right? From between Israel and between Gaza and Palestine. And instead, now they're getting Rafah, a small part, a small area between all of it. They're getting scraps to what they could have gotten if they signed the contract. If I get hired for $7.25, sure, at least I'm working. But if I know everybody else is being paid $16, $20, why would I do that? When I know that this isn't right, shouldn't be happening this way. We could come to better agreements. There's other things to do. How is that an amazing peace deal like he just acclaimed? Like, that comparison is not exaggerating. It is very comparable when you go to like minimum wage and you tell someone, okay, well, I know minimum wage is $15, $20, but can I instead work you for 10? Could I instead work you for 5? You're probably going to say no to that. It's an unfair contract. And when you say no to that, do you think somebody else should be like turning to you and saying, well, you had a chance. You could have done it. It could have worked. Even that person wouldn't accept it. And that goes both ways, whether it's Israel or working wage. Like, that is a ridiculous thing to expect from other people. It is ridiculous. And I go this far in the argument because I've had this argument with my dad, with Israel in relation. It's ridiculous.
Is why don't they see reality? Why don't they see what's good for them? And the answer is most of them do if you tell them the facts. But how do you tell them the facts over TikTok? You guys are there. You tell me. What's the suggestion? You got any ideas for me?
I don't think it's the Iran thing. The main thing I just see is if I don't think people like if civilians are getting injured or killed.
We don't want it either.
Yeah.
Well, I think the other issue too is you see there's a lot more Palestinian protests. You don't see very many Israeli protests, so you're going to see that on TikTok.
You know, it's organized, it's systemic, but it doesn't make it true. I mean, so what? Yeah, you have it. But what are they protesting for? I mean, look, most of the Arab world has made peace with Israel. We've had 4 historic peace accords. You know, people said you can never have peace because the Palestinians, you first have to solve the Palestinian issue. Well, the Palestinians have been fighting this for 100 years before there was even a state of Israel. And they're not fighting for a state.
That I agree with, and I talked with my friend about that earlier. It might have been here, it might not have been. I actually don't remember if it was in this conversation. It might have been when I first explained it to Taz, where I mentioned that in the 1920s, right? That's when it became the United Nations gave it territorial authority of the territory to Britain after World War I. And while Palestine, for that 20-year period from 1920s to 1940s, before Israel became Israel, there was a good amount of Jewish population in Palestine. They were Palestinian people. They coexisted. They went under the same name, right? And by name, I mean American, European, the way you would categorize, right? That's their country. And there was so much back and forth, the same way we have today with left and right, and people on the left firebombing or Molotoving Teslas and such, right? So types of back and forth events for 20 years, 25, 28 years before Israel was the thing, before Israel was founded after World War II in a way to create a home country for Jewish people, which is nothing wrong with. Like, at its core, I would love it. I'm Jewish. Very minor percent, but I've been to 4 bat mitzvahs. I've read the Torah. Like, I'm German too. So, like, shit, I'm both ways on that one. But it's like, it's nothing to generalize people. We gotta condemn what's morally right and what's morally wrong. And the hypocrisy and inability to see that you're now the ones doing it. When back in the day, you'd be told to go to the left or go to the right, and now we're doing that with healthcare workers. Go to the left or the right to decide if you get tortured for months, if you get beat, trapped in a cell, blindfolded, on your knees for months straight as healthcare workers. Or if you get pushed, if the soldier says you go to the other side, you get set free. How different is that from what the Gestapos were telling people in 1940? And it's ridiculous. How do we not see this? It is your culture. It is your history. If anybody should be able to spot that comparison, it should be them. It should be you guys. And it's just so sad to me the way this goes. But he is right when he says that it starts before Israel was even created when it comes to Palestine. Because there was a problem when Israel first got founded and then 5 countries attacked it. But even when that happened, it wasn't Palestine that attacked it. It was a lot of different Arab countries, Muslim countries, right? And so the issue with me is it had nothing to do with them. But the reality is there were problems and tension beforehand, which probably led to why the Nakba happened. Resentment for their past, when a lot of people that or in that early founding days of Israel, a good portion of them came from Palestine. And so they carried that resentment with them. Like, some people will just say, oh, it's a lot of history, it goes way back. Okay, then make sure, do you know that history? Take a couple weeks and learn it. Like, holy shit. If we're just going to bottle something up and dumb it down to, oh, it's a lot of history, you're never going to know the reality of shit. But when you go into things and dissect it and go into years at a time, from 1920 to 21, 22, 23, 24, 1 year at a time, and you see the chronological order of events, you see patterns, and you see the way that this happened, the way it got to how it is now.
They don't want a state next to Israel. They want a state instead of Israel.
And that, you know, when people say, "Oh, you're projecting," this is textbook projecting. He just said they don't even want Israel to be a thing. They just want that land. What is Israel's theocracy or goal with Palestine? Well, just look up Zionism. Just look up Zionists. Just look up what that means. That is literally what he is doing. The words that just came out of his mouth are what he is doing to the other side that he's saying is doing it. It's like if I shit my pants and then I say, "Why'd you shit your pants?" No, doesn't work that way.
There was even a state of Israel. And they're not fighting for a state. They don't want a state next to Israel. They want a state instead of Israel. And they teach their children that the greatest duty is to murder as many Jews as they want. The so-called moderates, the the other branch, not Hamas, the moderates that are described as such, they pay for slay. The more Jews you kill, the more they pay the murderers. I mean, that's a death
Which
cult.
is crazy. Yeah, some of the anti-Semitism I see is pretty nuts.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'm an American Jew, and it's hard to identify as that.
I
You
understand
almost
the
don't even want to
problem.
own it.
But I think we just changed history. I see American Jews are very proud now. Jews around the world are very proud because we, these guys were out to murder us and do another Holocaust. You know, the Holocaust, the Nazis murdered 6 million Jews. There are now 7 million Jews, close to 8 million Jews in Israel. They want to murder all of us, and they say so. And all of a sudden, unlike the Holocaust 80 years ago, we were completely defenseless, and they butchered us. Now we're not defenseless, but we are targeting them. And even though we have to fight the vilification that is happening in America too, ultimately, people join winners. That's what happens. People join winners. And we
My channel is not new to the definition, or what I consider the definition, of the word history. It is his story. But I will die in hell before I let this world end up as his story.
stand up strong and we're proud. And America join winners. And we stand up strong and we're proud. And American Jews and the friends of Israel who are not Jews stand proud with us too. And I wouldn't be intimidated by these protesters. I think I don't think they know what they're talking about, they're just gays for Gaza, chickens for KFC, women for the women of Gaza. God almighty. I mean, this
gays
is
for Gaza is crazy.
No, but women for Gaza is crazy too, because you know what the women in Gaza are? They're property. They're nothing. They have no rights. They're completely subjugated. And God forbid if, they're executed anytime they commit a so-called offense. I mean, it's absurd. So young people who say they're progressives, people who talk about liberty, and they join with these killers and they buy these lies, and they say, good is bad and bad is good, You know what they say in the Bible? Have they no eyes to see? Have no ears to hear? Can they be that blind? And the answer, yeah, for a while, but I guess I'll wise up.
The second part of that question, what would you say is your biggest regret?
Well, my biggest regret is that, that my wife and my two boys have to suffer the slings and arrows, of public life. So I chose this life. I didn't know I'd get to be prime minister, but I chose public life. But when Sarah married me, she didn't choose this. She didn't know where it would end up. My boys were born into it, more or less, and they get a lot of flack, a lot of vilification, a lot of character assassination. That is something I regret, but it's part of the journey, and it's a very painful one, frankly. What I regret.
I could agree to that. I'll judge his wife when she blackmails someone, but I will not judge people for no reason. Just because they are, whether it's a part of someone or whether it's that they're family with someone, not a reason to judge someone. But when you blackmail one of the richest people on earth, and she ends up talking in a police investigation video about Netanyahu and you, and she talks about you blackmailing her for a Tiffany necklace, I'm going to talk about that because you're worthy of being judged at that point. But the kids and such, I agree. We'll find out in 20 years from now. Then I might talk. We'll see.
In terms of conduct, you know, I became prime minister at a fairly young age, and then in Israel, I was 46. And, you know, the first term, I was booted out after the first term. They put tons of money in there with foreign NGOs.
Yeah.
I spent the first 3 years in which I was prime minister basically totally on the job, and so did Sarah. And we sort of neglected our boys. And having been thrown out of office, I came back, first as a finance minister, but then 10 years, altogether 10 years later, I became prime minister again. And since then, I don't know, I won 5 elections. I can't keep track. But I have to get reelected. People say, oh, baby, you're a king. I say, I'm not a king. King doesn't have to get reelected. I do. You know, I'm a Democrat, small d. I believe that the people have to choose who leads
Definitely a small D. Definitely a small D.
them, no one else. Okay, so second time I'm elected, Sarah told me, you know, let's not repeat the mistake. Our boys are going to be with us for a few more years, and let's devote family time, you know? You know what family time is? I'm telling this to you. Maybe you have the same thing. Maybe you have young families. You will have. She said, Friday night, Shabbat dinner, you know, and lunch, nothing. No phones, no cell phones. Get rid of them. Okay. Can you imagine sitting around the table, not having cell phones? Yeah, it's a good idea. I tried sometime. Okay.
It's refreshing, right?
Yeah, and you know, we actually have family time for a limited time. My younger boy, who's you know, is an Oxford graduate, but he was sort of, you know, he was a great student of the Bible at a very early age. So we'd read a portion of the Bible, which is always relevant. You know, it's a very good book, by the way. I strongly recommend it. I don't know if people still read it, but it's a great book. So up to the age of 12, I was teaching him. Okay, from the age of 12, he was teaching me. And this was family time. And it's because my wife had the, you know, just the wisdom to give us those years that otherwise would go forever, you know.
What's one thing you and President Trump have in common? Like something like specific, like a hobby or like something you both like a food?
Hamburgers.
McDonald's?
Hamburgers. So, yeah, so President Trump comes to Israel. It's a great visit, wonderful visit. Okay. And then we have dinner. Okay. And we bring this chef, you know, he's like a very good chef. And he gives a 7-course dinner. I'm telling you, 7 course. And it's the longest dinner I've ever had. And, you know, in this fancy plate, and this fancy plate, and this fancy plate. And finally, he brings up this dressed up hamburger. And I look at Trump and he looks at me. Finally, we had what we wanted. We got the hamburger, you know. So, yeah, I was a junk food junkie for many years. Sarah and I would come. We didn't have, you remember, Israel was semi-socialist, so we didn't even have a McDonald's or a Burger King, okay? And we'd land on an occasional visit to New York. You know what the first thing we did? McDonald's. And to be honest, Burger King. I like Burger King more.
What's your go-to at McDonald's?
No, I'll tell you, Burger King. We did the, you know, the double, you know.
Whopper?
The double.
I haven't ripped Burger King in a long
It's
time.
not.
Burger
call
King
it
kind of
something.
sucks.
Yeah.
No,
The
you're wrong.
BK Lounge can hit. If
I
you're-
disagree completely.
You like
I
Burger
mean,
King over McDonald's?
That's your worst take, I think.
Absolutely.
That's a crazy take.
No,
I'm not
that
gonna
was
lie.
fine. I mean, I like Burger King. The answer is yes. And we'd go and have Burger King. And guess what happened? So I opened up the Israeli economy, right? And what do you think we had? McDonald's, Burger King's, burger that, burger this. And the bloom went off the rose. And how did I know? Because we'd go for we'd go for the lot, you know, the shakes, the French fries, the burgers. I mean, this is a massive massive attack on your health. Never mind. Okay.
No, it's
So
bad for
we
you, yeah.
stopped, but we stopped gorging on this, and we sort of moved away from it. So I remember that. But President Trump apparently still likes this stuff.
So what all he eats?
We rode on his plane before the election because we were doing the same thing with him. And
McDonald's
yeah,
or-
McDonald's.
I think
Yeah.
it was McDonald's lunch,
Chick-fil-A.
dinner.
You ever tried Chick-fil-A?
Chick-fil-A is good,
It's
actually.
good, right?
Yeah, Chick-fil-A is
The
good.
Chick-fil-A sauce.
I don't remember that. I mean,
Dip the waffle fries in it.
Hey, just for the record, I've never went to Chick-fil-A, and I have many of them near my house. But you want to know why I never went to Chick-fil-A? Not because it's a Mormon company, and it's not that because they close on Sundays, but it's because they advocate for electric chairing gay people. Enjoy that chicken. Yeah, I don't support that shit. I'm not gay myself. I let people do what they want, but that shit is, you are taking away from a human right. Get the fuck out of my fast food locations. Never in a day in my life will I support that, but this guy has no problem about that. You know, maybe he doesn't know what I know. What I heard one time in my life 10, 15 years ago that made me decide never to go to it. Crazy, right? How I mean, I understand this is chicken. Many people go to Chick-fil-A. I get that, but some people don't think about these things, right? And it's, hey, we eat beef. I mean, I'm not too big on cow rights and pig rights. Like, I understand that I'm complicit in eating bacon and eating beef and eating chicken and eating meat. However, let's not dehumanize people. A company that advocates for electric chairing gay people does not deserve my money. But I guess you know, they don't care about that.
I think I went for the Chick-fil-A. Can you get me some? Yeah. Can you get me some tomorrow? Sure. No, I'm in this.
You ever tried Chick-fil-A?
Chick-fil-A is good,
It's
actually.
good, right?
Yeah, Chick-fil-A is
The
good.
Chick-fil-A sauce.
I don't remember that. I mean,
Dip the waffle fries in it.
I think I went for the Chick-fil-A. Can you get me some? Yeah. Can you get me some tomorrow? Sure. No, I'm in this protein diet, you know.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I was until
Until you saw President Trump, right?
no, you know, I'll tell you what happened. I can't divulge what happened in the meeting. It was great. But so he says, he calls his aide, you know, bring me the stuff. You know what he brings in? Chocolate, candy. I said, Donald, what are you doing? You know, because I've been now for months off this sugar thing. And he says, this is good stuff. That's Donald Trump. He's a human being, you know. He's a great, he's a natural, wonderful guy. He's a warm person. And he's got, you know, he's got vilification the way we all do. You know, they paint a picture. You think the people who are hearing me now, you think they know me? Not well, they do through you. The two of you, you know, you're opening it up. But I'm just telling you that what do we have in common? Well, we like to spend time with each other.
Yeah, you guys seem like you have a good time.
Yeah, we do. We really.
Chilling with Biden must have been boring.
Next. They paint a picture. Donald Trump, he's a human being, you know. He's a natural, wonderful guy. He's a warm person. And he's got, you know, he's got vilification the way we all do. You know, they paint a picture. You think the people who are hearing me now, you think they know me? Not well, they do through you. The two of you, you know, you're opening it up. But I'm just telling you that what do we have in common? Well, we like to spend time with each other.
Yeah, you guys seem like you have a good time.
Yeah, we do. We really.
Chilling with Biden must have been boring.
Next.
Obama was probably a good time though too. No,
Well, he was. I think. Look,
I don't agree with everything he did, but Obama's still cool.
Look, first of all, Obama was.
Like he has aura. You know what that means?
Yeah, I do. And he had it. And I don't disclaim that he had great talents, but we had different view of the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, he was a very talented and gifted. Can't build peace or security on the, you know, on the rocks. You know, they'll crash. I mean, these things will crash on the rocks of Middle Eastern realities. You can only build peace on truth and reality, not on deliberate, falsified fantasy.
Why do they say Israel's like starving the people of Gaza?
Well, because we're trying to get the food in, and we let food trucks in, and guess what happens when we let?
We ask him, why are people saying this? Why are you doing this? Why are people saying that you're starving children in Gaza? Well, actually, to tell you the truth, I'm Netanyahu. To tell you the truth, we actually kill Palestinians. We actually snipe them in. Some days we shoot, some days we shoot caps off. Testing. Oh, okay, there we go. Sorry, I guess my mic audio was just really low on my sound that I lower and raise on the microphone itself. Sorry for that. But you're good, man. Didn't miss too much. Really, just me criticizing the lies, and then saying I agree with him when I agree, and calling out the bullshit when it's bullshit. For example, I don't know if you were here for it, but he said Iran has no water. Actually, I think you were here for that part. I was talking about red rivers, from minerals and such, and then how he really wanted to dehumanize. Were you here for that part? That was a crazy part too. If he really wanted to dehumanize them, he should have just said it's blood rivers, and that they're killing so many innocent people that their rivers are red. Because like literally the next thing he said was, you know what's shocking? They have names. Like if you're really you're working to dehumanize people, at least use your brain with it. You got there's things you could have said there. They don't have water, even though they have red rivers and red lakes and red water, because of minerals, right? Because a high density of minerals and like not carbon, like copper and shit, right? Like if you wanted to dehumanize them, you could have just said they're blood rivers. Like there's, use your stupid brain to, at least to come up with something stupid. Like that actually makes sense to stupid people, at least.
They themselves were mowed down, but there was acts of carnage that were so cruel that it's impossible to imagine, but also acts of courage that are amazing.
All right, I gotta go back to where he was talking about October 7th. He says, so what do you think about that, Ditto? Not much at all. I just say cool, and that's it for me. 3 by 0s. I mean, I have quite a few of them. I also have Dittos that are like 10 IVs and like 20 IVs. It's cool. It happens. RNG is probably like 30K, 40K. I look at it as money bags, but even when I get 0 Dittos, I just sell them for like 4K. I don't even care about it. Although I probably should.
Obama was probably a good time though too. No,
Well, he was. I think. Look,
I don't agree with everything he did, but Obama's still cool.
Look, first of all, Obama was. I don't think that I didn't always share to know that he's essential, absolutely essential, and he viewed it differently. He thought that through accommodation that he would stop them, and I don't think he did.
Great on October 7th, how it happened, why the response took so long.
Well, what happened was that at 6:29 in the morning, several thousand of these Hamas murderers crossed the fence from Gaza into the neighboring communities and butchered everything in sight. And the biggest butchery took place in one kibbutz that I visited recently. And it's horrible. I mean, they went into the houses, they shot the children, they shot the babies, they shot the families, old people, Holocaust survivors, you name it. And the other thing that they did was there was a music festival that lasted through the night in the open areas, okay, near Gaza. Young people, came to have a music festival in nature. And these killers came there and they just sprayed the whole place. They murdered these young women and young men. And there were acts of heroism there that were amazing. Some of the people saved people, came back to save people. They themselves were mowed down. But there was acts of carnage that were so cruel that it's impossible to imagine, but also acts of courage that are amazing. So that's what you had there. That's how it started.
Yeah.
And then, how long did it take to get in there? We're still investigating why it took so long. Why don't we just have attack helicopters right there? We have We have a pretty good idea now, but that's going to be investigated fully.
What's your response to people that say it could have been prevented?
One thing I do want to say, funny thing I want to say about October 7th, though, because I do not justify what happened that day at all. And I condemn Hamas the same way I condemn the IOF, not IDF. They're not defensive at this point. I condemn both sides on this issue vehemently, right? But one information tidbit I want to point out, since we're talking about October 7th, and we also talk about how October 6th, there was a report that 2023 was the worst year for Palestinian children in the last 100 years when it comes to the death rate. That was a day before kind of a funny coincidence there. Like, it's not extremely correlated, but it kind of shows you it happens as a reaction. And it's not a good reaction, but I'm just saying there's a reason it happened. All of this could have been stopped way farther back.
I agree with him completely. And it was just horrible. And the other thing that happened was they took 255 people hostage. I mean, we're talking about grandmothers and their grandchildren.
Of the people that were taken hostage, yeah, there were a lot of civilians that were taken hostage. But did you know that when they did the negotiations last time between Hamas and Israel, because it was a hostage negotiation, that they actually released every hostage that was civilian? And the only people, I mean, for the most part, because we don't know for sure, right? We can't say for 1,000% there's nobody else, right? And people probably did die in the process that were civilian. For not even probably did. I just mean probably in the hostage scenario, right? Because we don't know. We just don't know. Well, 99% sure probably did happen. We don't know though. But what I will say is that of the 55 or so hostages that are left, I know it's over 50 and it's around 50. Of the 50 or so hostages that they still have, they are all IDF, IOF soldiers, military people. I just want to put that out there because they do need to come back home safe and sound. But don't forget that. Don't consider it all civilians, especially because the words we use is just hostages. And for the most part, what's assumed is it's mostly civilians. Because it's a terror, we consider them, and they are a terrorist group. So what we would assume is that they're civilians. I just want to, for the record, 90+% of them that are still in hostage are military people from the IDF, IOF.
We're talking about people they killed. They took their bodies so they can, they can trade these bodies. I mean, they took young girls and young men, and it's horrible. And on the first day, senior defense officials said to him, on the first day of the war, right? He said, we have to get used to the idea that we're not going to get any of these hostages out alive. And I thought differently. I said, no, we're going to get them all. Because if we have...
How do you get all the hostages when you're bombing hospitals that your soldiers are at? How are you saving them when you're bombing the locations where everybody's at? Fun fact, Israel, when you look up the statistics of it, has actually killed more of their hostages. Of the people that they want to bring back home, they've killed more of them than Hamas has. That is something that is a fact at this point. In fact, it's not even just a 1-to-1 ratio. It's like 2 to 3 times more. That in itself shows that he's lying. Anyone can look that up.
We have to get used to the idea that we're not going to get any of these hostages out alive. And I thought differently. I said, no, we're going to get them all. Because if we have, our military force, great courage of our soldiers, and the diplomatic effort that will combine with it, We're going to get them out. So up to date, we got of 255, we got 205 out, 147 of them alive, and the rest are recovered bodies. Some of them we got out with heroic rescue efforts by our, just went in there into Hamas territory, and these fantastic, brave soldiers, they got them out. And now we have 20 left. 20 are alive, and 30 that are not alive. And I'm going to get them all. We may have a deal we're working on right now.
Oh, so it's 20 alive of the 50 that I mentioned, and 30 of them not alive. I wonder if the recent strikes and amplification of bombings that we've done on Gaza in the last 2 months has changed that number from 50 to 30. Sorry, from 50 to 20. Kind of proved my point that I was talking about off of previous statistics. That's of that 50 I was just mentioning. I guess shit's updated since then. We got a new DLC. Fucking ridiculous.
To try to get half of them, 10, alive, and more than half of the sea sausages right away. And I'm committed to getting all of them out. I believe in this. I didn't believe for a second that we wouldn't get anyone alive. We've got nearly all of them, but I want all of them. All of them. The dead and the living.
What's that negotiation like? Like, why do they let some out and then they're still holding on to some?
Because they think that, that's their security blanket.
Because the ones they kept are the soldiers. That's the real answer there. To that question, if you want, ask a journalist. Ask someone who fucking knows. That is not going to propagandize you. It's such a simple answer there.
Why do they let some out and then they're still holding on to some?
Because they think that, that's their security blanket, These innocent people that have been kidnapped. I mean, kidnapped. They kidnapped these innocent children, They kidnapped these women, and these grandmothers. And they put them in the dungeons, these underground dungeons in Gaza. And some of these young people are tall, like they're 6'4". They can't stand up for months. They can't stand up because the tunnels are lower. And
You know who else can't stand up? The health workers that you decided don't go to the left, but instead go to the right, or don't go to the right, but instead go to the left. And instead of being able to go free with their family, ended up blindfolded, handcuffed, put in the back of a trailer type truck, like a pickup truck type truck, like a big car with a lot of people sitting in rows in a caravan looking thing. Caravan's probably a better word for it. Blindfolded, handcuffed, relocated to an Israeli prison, tortured, harassed, gang raped, murdered, assaulted, victimized, harassed, humiliated for months to years at a time in a prison. Healthcare workers, not Hamas, healthcare workers. What was the even question? I lost my train of thought.
for months, they can't stand up because...
Oh yeah, can't stand up. Yeah, we had blindfolded them. We had kept them on their knees in prison. There's first-hand accounts in the documentary Gaza Doctors Under Attack. In that documentary, it's an hour, 10 minutes or so long, and it's many accounts of many doctors, and it's a lot of video proof. It's so well documented. The amount of documentation I mean camera being there showing inevitable proof of what's going on. That's what I mean when I say documentation. There's so much evidence and first-hand testimonies, and you'll see a photo from a satellite of prisoners with their hands all the way, and you see 4 people in the front, and one of those people not only survived but is in the documentary talking about it, pointing out himself in the photo, saying, yes, that's me, and you can very clearly see it is him. It's the same person, and that's where the whole left or the right thing comes. It's his story, his first-hand account of detailing what happened to some of these doctors, why some of them died, the way some of their beards were plucked, the gang rapes, the abuse, the torture. There's video evidence of the gang rape that I'm talking about. At least one of them. There's more than one, obviously, but one of them was actually caught on the cameras and was leaked, of just men in IDF military clothing gang raping a dude that's Palestinian in prison. This is to healthcare workers. Healthcare, not criminals. You want to talk about they can't even stand? You know, I feel really bad for the innocent people who were put through trauma. And that's why I talk more about the other side.
I would say is a paragon of freedom in an area that doesn't exactly enjoy freedom. And to have young Americans march and support these mass rape, these people who beheaded men, who burned.
Once again, mass rape. I don't know if you're talking about Israel, because you should be talking about Israel, because Israel had a policy where they tried to prosecute at 6 of the concentration camp guards at Sidi Taman prison. Okay, it is a concentration camp where they would pack up Palestinians from the Gaza Strip and then ship them off into this concentration camp. 6 of the concentration camp guards were caught on camera, on CCTV footage, raping the Palestinian prisoners to death. The Israeli government knew that there was an ICC prosecution being conducted into war crimes. So they wanted to use the principle of complementarity to defend themselves as a shield, to be like, see, we're actually investigating ourselves and we won't find any wrongdoing, but we're investigating ourselves nonetheless. So you can't investigate us, because that's how international organs of justice work. International organs of justice can only investigate and prosecute you for war crimes if you are not sufficiently dealing with the war crimes that you are committing. So knowing that, they literally, knowing that there was a UN report coming out on sexual violence that the Israeli state was committing to, was committing against the Palestinians, that they tried to at least prosecute some of these rapes. They literally had a pro-rape January 6th. They were armed and they forcibly released these concentration camp guards. There was an emergency session in the Israeli Knesset where one of Benjamin Netanyahu's own party members unironically said that their concentration camp guards had a right to rape Palestinians. They had a right to rape them. That's what he said. This is all on camera. It sounds made up because it's so insane. But it's not made up at all. It is literally on camera. Many people, obviously, are completely oblivious to this reality because Western media does not cover it. And the reason why Western media does not cover it is because if Western media did cover it, the Israeli approval ratings that are already incredibly low would be so goddamn low that people would be demanding military intervention that are unfolding in Israel. But I will go even further. Remember, this man in the middle right there is the primary rapist. And at first he went on television to talk about how he had a right to rape the Palestinian prisoners to death. Then he unmasked himself and became a television personality. The Israeli soldier was caught raping Palestinians on camera, is now being honored and celebrated like a celebrity star at shows in Israel. And if it were true, Israeli rabbi defense soldiers accused of Palestinian prisoner. A video shows a rabbi in Israel blessing a soldier accused of Palestinian detainee, defending his actions, even if the soldier is to be found guilty. I'm sorry, dog. You can't have your prime minister running around and being like, oh, these guys were fighting a rape. They're rape beheaders. Yeah. Over a year after their arrest, 5 Israeli soldiers accused of beating and sexually abusing a Palestinian detainee at Sidi Taman have yet to face trial. Now a military judge recommends mediation instead. The Israeli military has offered more severe penalties to Israeli Jewish soldiers in the military that cook hot dogs on Saturday than rape Palestinian prisoners in a concentration camp on CCTV. Yes, because Jews are obviously not supposed to work on Saturday. It's Shabbos. So when the Israeli occupying force soldiers actually went to a kitchen and cooked up hot dogs, they got a more severe penalty than these rapists did.
Brave soldiers, they got them out. And now we have 20 left, 20 are alive, and 30 that are not alive. And I'm going to get them all. We may have a deal we're working on right now to try to get half of them, 10, alive, and more than half of the deceased sausages right away. And I'm committed to getting all of them out. I believe in this. I didn't believe for a second that we wouldn't get anyone alive. We've got nearly all of them, but I want all of them. All of them. The dead and the living.
What's that negotiation like? Like, why do they let some out and then they're still holding on to some?
Because they think that, because they think that will, that's their security blanket,
Because the ones that are still there are the ones who were shooting bullets through heads of children. Because they signed up for this shit. Because they have nationalism and have pride in their country and don't care about the other race of people. Those people were kept. The civilians, the 150 plus, the 200 or so, were released.
These innocent people that have been kidnapped. I mean, kidnapped. They kidnapped these innocent.
And it doesn't take away from the people who died along that process at all. But I'm just saying, when you twist facts, you're going to have someone who stands on the other side showing the facts. The people definitely died that were innocent in the Israeli side, without a doubt. And people were kidnapped and taken hostage, without a doubt. And people that were innocent. And people that were innocent died in hostage, being a hostage, without a doubt. But when somebody asks you, why do they have 50 left? But they got rid of, they not got rid of, it's a bad word. Why do they have 50 of them left, but they let go of the, there was a negotiation last time with the other. When you ask a question that's worded a type of way, that there's a clear answer to, you better answer it that way.
Children, they kidnap these women, and these grandmothers, and they put.
Because the women and the grandmothers and the children are definitely the hostages that are kept. Use your fucking brain.
Put them in the dungeons, these underground dungeons in Gaza. And
he asked you about why it's this way with the 50 and what. You're not even answering the question.
They kidnap these security blankets.
Negotiation like why do they let some out and then they're still holding on to some?
Because they think that because they think that will that's their security blanket. These innocent people that have been kidnapped. Kidnapped. They kidnapped these innocent children. They kidnapped these women. And these grandmothers. And they put them in the dungeons, these underground dungeons in Gaza. And some of these young people are tall, like they're 6'4". They can't stand up for months. They can't stand up because the tunnels are lower. And there's nothing. There's no daylight. There's nothing. Just imagine this unbelievable thing,
I couldn't imagine.
We've seen the retaliation too. So what's your message to why? Because a lot of Americans don't think we should support Israel at all.
That means you don't support America. Because for the terrorists, you know what the terrorists are fighting us? Because they say we're America and America is Israel. We have the same free societies, the same free values. They want to drive us back to the dark ages of this tyranny. And Americans who say that, I think basically say, okay, so you support those who chant death to America, those who want to eliminate America. That's crazy. Oh boy. This is
nice espresso.
This is service.
Yeah.
This is service. Yeah, that's right.
That's what we do on the Full Send Pod.
Thanks.
You were a soldier yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
How long did you serve?
I served for 5 years.
What was that like?
What was it like? I was in a special unit, like our special forces, like your Navy SEALs, It's like, that's the best thing that I could describe. What was it like? First of all, it was demanding. I was spent a few years in the United States in high school. So I figured, it's a good time to prepare. So I ran, I swam, I lifted weights. I said, I'm ready. Okay. Boy, was I wrong. I wasn't ready. It's not only the physical demands, but also the psychological demands of stress that you put into.
The training's crazy, right?
Yeah, the training is very hard, but
Pause that. It seems like it's a bot message. Yeah, someone just. I'm gonna ban that real quick if it lets me. Cool.
very soon. I mean, like, well, we did crazy things, and some of them were, well, you know, we had the first hijackings of Israeli planes from Lebanon, actually, from PLO that was ensconced in Lebanon. So as a very young soldier,
I
I
don't
mean,
love
we
Lebanon.
landed in Beirut airport, like in the movies, you know. We were told to wear red berets. I thought that was ridiculous. I mean, very theatrical. But
Man, don't make fun of no red beret. Shout out Ibrahim Traore. I stand with West Africa. It's kind of interesting to see what's going on in that region over the last couple years since 2020. Don't make fun of no red beret. Hey, go fuck yourself, old man. Don't make fun of no red beret. In fact, Ibrahim Traore is like 50 billion times more of a man than this dude is. Oh my god.
we landed in Beirut airport and took care of the plane.
Now I just gotta show you a photo of what I'm talking about. Like, don't. He said I was in Africa right at the end of Black Hawk Down. Oh damn. But I'm just saying it because like don't make fun of my man Ibrahim Traore because this boy is gonna be the one. Boy is probably not the best word to use, but this dude's gonna be the one that, like, in my opinion, if he's not assassinated by the next 10 years, he might be the one to really unite Africa. And I'm here for it because he's someone who's for the people, from what you could see. Whether it's helping out with like getting rid of homelessness, whether it's infrastructure building, whether it's giving the people of his country the ownership of mines. Because as we know, Africa is really rich in mines and gold and such, right? The people who have the ownership of it are the people who work there. How beautiful is that? The people who work at the mines have a fat percentage of ownership of the mines. For the people. That's my type of president. Not in America, but I support Ibrahim Traore, and from what I've seen him do over there, he has a country of people that love him. And I love to see that. And whether it's the 3 different countries that I forget the other 2, like I don't want to butcher the name, so I'm just going to say the 3 that he's been working with recently to kind of unite them. He's doing a lot of things positive in his region. And he's opened up West Africa to a lot of diplomacy. Now, while it's with a lot of China and Russia that they do their trades with, right? It's not us. In fact, they probably hate us. And it's not because of us that they hate us, but 10 years from now it probably will be, because some of these assassination attempts against Ibrahim Traore are coming from American people who are invested in the mines over there. When I mean invested, I mean are eyeing it. Ibrahim Traore, something entirely to the side, not today's topic. Only brought that up because he mentioned red beret. Don't fuck with that red beret. Don't do that. Don't do that.
And we didn't kill anyone, but we blew up the planes, and we said to Lebanon, if you hijack our planes, we're going to blow up your planes. Didn't kill anyone. It was like a textbook operation. And then, you know, we went into a lot of these things. But when you're young, and I was 18, you think that this is cost-free. But one of the first things that happened to me was that one of my close friends came from what you would call a disadvantaged home. He was a brilliant student. He was put into a great school. He was a mathematician and an athlete. And we became very close friends. And after a certain operation, he died in my arms. You know, it's not an easy thing when, you know, somebody dies in your arms. And so you go through that. What was it like? On the whole, it was a great preparation for life. I became an officer and led many operations behind enemy lines. So it teaches you, one, that you can do many things that seemingly are impossible, but 2, also to recognize that at least.
I hope we can do things that seem impossible, because trying to defund $500 million and ending up being a 422 to 6 vote kind of seems fucking impossible to change. I hope for the impossible one day too. Maybe I maybe that type of confidence and that type of thing is needed these days. And I hope he's right when he says that achieving the impossible can be possible. The 422-6 to not defund the entirety of Israel, but to defund 500 million out of 20 billion a year. That is 1/40th of the budget, and it was 422-6 in favor of Israel. And I mean, like, the majority was in favor of Israel, not the 6. Like, this is a pipe dream that's impossible to fix. Palestine is fucked. Point blank period. There is no hope in my eyes for this. But I'm going to continue screaming to the void my opinions on it, because it is what it is, and I stand on what I believe is right. But the reality of this is they're going to keep going. They already have plans to send everybody to Rafah. Rafah is not hospitable. Rafah is it's literally nothing is there now after this last year of destruction that's been done there. And we're moving 2 million people there. We're starting with 600,000. It's a fucked, doomed, with no hope reality.
Which I did.
And just trying to take out 500 million of 20 billion a year, every year 20 billion. Take 500 million out, that's 422-6. Talk about impossible to change.
That life isn't a series of military operations. You know, it's more complicated. It's not, you can't control everything. And you have to sometimes go with the flow. But the most important thing I found is to live a life of purpose. You know, you have a purpose in life. You have a cause. You have something that you think is greater than yourself. You know, live that life. And don't forget your family. You know, have a life of purpose, and, you know, don't forget your family. And in my case, my family was also my older.
Those are words to live by. I just hope I wish he lived by other words too, but those are words to live by.
Brother, who was also an officer in my unit, ultimately became its commander. And he led the rescue team in probably the most celebrated rescue of hostages in modern history. That's the rescue of 103 Israelis in Entebbe, Uganda. Like it was thousands of kilometers away. When I was a soldier, when I was an officer, the PLO hijacked a Belgian airplane, Sabine airplane, landed it in Tel Aviv airport, and said, unless you release these killers, you know, we're going to blow up the whole plane full of Israeli passengers. And my unit was selected to do something about it. We had a defense minister. His name is Moshe Dayan. I don't know if you remember him. He had he had a one-eyed patch. He had a patch. He was a very charismatic figure, and he negotiated with the terrorists in the plane, and they said, you know, they want to fly out to a destination of their choice. They'll let the passengers go, and we'll fill the plane with these jail terrorists. And while he was negotiating, we were practicing how to use pistols, you know, in order to penetrate the airplane, but not kill everybody. Because if you use submachine guns, everybody would be dead. Now, who the hell used pistols? They're totally useless. You know, what do you need them for? They don't have firepower. You don't really do that.
I expect no less from a war criminal. What do you need pistols for? That's not enough power. I expect nothing less from a war criminal.
You know, there's a phrase in the Bible, they shall rise like lions. Okay? That's what they say of the people, the ancient Israelites. They shall rise like lions. So I call it rising lion. rising line. And boy, our soldiers fought like lions. I mean, they are very brave, very dedicated.
I'm gonna piss people off with this one. If my parents named me Jesus, does that make me the Jesus that lived 2,000 years ago? As many Christians and as most people believe, at least here in America. If my name is changed to that as I'm born, am I the same one? No. One happened thousands of years ago. Now, we created Israel in 1940s, and the one that the Bible speaks of way before the 1940s, right? Bible's telling, way before that, is not the same. In the same area, it's not the same. The way we're so quick to say, oh, well, it's not the same. It's not the same people. We're so quick to say that when it comes to black people, and when it comes to reparations, and when it comes to 40 acres and a mule. We are so quick to say, well, that was hundreds of years ago. It was not you that was affected by it. It was ancestors. We're so quick to find a reason to justify not agreeing to the deal we made, right? We justify that by saying it's so far back, which is wrong. The way it's justified is wrong, right? But if you want to use that analogy, you should be using it with Israel. When it comes to, here, let me actually go back. I'm losing my train of thought on that.
So I called it rising line.
Oh yeah, like you should be using that same thought process when it comes to Israel. When it comes to, is it the same that was talked about 2,000 years ago in the Bible? No, it's not. America created that in the last 200 years, last 70 to 80 years. We created that, and we're pretending like it's the same. Revelations and the Bible, if you ask me, probably not based upon the Israel of today. I don't care where Christians like to believe the Bible goes, and what I mean by that is so many people like to believe their interpretation of it is the right one. Nobody knows. Everyone has their own theories on shit, right? What I think of the Bible is it has a lot of good meaning and messages, and to take metaphors and take analogies and take ways to live out of it, but to treat it with a grain of salt and to not take everything word for word or literal as like your moral standing for everything. Because if it was your moral standing for everything, you'd have a slave. Genuinely. But we don't feel that way. We don't accept that shit. But you're so quick to use people in general, so quick to use that to condemn other people, but you wouldn't condemn yourself with it. Having clothing like this, where it's stitched with two different types of fabric, is a sin in the Bible. We all do that. Are we stoned to death for it? So flimsy and so pick and choose on when to use it. And I just wanted to clarify, when we talk about Israel, you want to bring up the way the Bible speaks of Israel, and that's why you go do what you want. I just want to remind you that it's not the same. I just want to say that. Don't care if it pisses people off. It's the truth. Truth hurts. Facts, not feelings.
Rising line. And boy, our soldiers fought like lions. I mean, they are very brave, very dedicated, and very noble. And the last thing they want is to kill civilians. That's the last thing they want. And they take efforts that no other army has done on this thing. But the one thing they want to do is assure the future of our people. We haven't traveled. You know how old the Jewish people is? America is 250 years old next year, right? Right? Well, the Jewish people are 3,500 years old, all right? Remember Moses parting the Red Sea? That's about 3,500 years ago.
Let's get on. Let's talk about that. I brought up whole taking it in a literal sense. You remember Moses when he parted the Red Sea? Hey guys, you remember when you're being chased by Egyptian enemies, and so you're running to the ocean for some reason, and Moses just decides to open it up. The sea split apart, and you guys cross it, and only when you get to where you're going across the split sea does the sea end up closing on the enemies. You're telling me to believe that happened? That not only did, not like a tsunami where it like pulls water back, but it did that sideways to split the ocean. But then it also, as a weapon, closed to kill the people chasing them. Cool story. I'm not taking that literally. But you could go ahead and be like, remember when Moses split the Red Sea and the Egyptians behind them got the water closed on them and they all died? I don't think it happened that way. And if people want to call that blasphemy, I'm a realist. I'm sorry.
You know,
Show me a science experiment where you could do something like that today in a controlled environment, and then I'll believe it. Show me some science to that.
that's about 3,500 years ago. So we have a great history of great tragedy and great triumph. And we're not going to let it end by the mad ayatollahs there who want to rain death on both of us. And we're not.
He said, well, you could also look at it in the sense of Israel was killing people back then also. Hey, bro, you're not wrong. Hey, man, you're not wrong. But he's not even thinking about it that way, and neither am I. Like, nobody's like... Yeah. And it's messed up. It's such a messed up topic, but that's just funny to think about it that way. Even back then, bro, 3,500 years ago, you guys were still the ones oppressing others, man. You dropped an entire ocean on Egypt? You telling me you dropped an ocean on an infantry? Man, that reminds me of dropping bombs on people with rocks. You're telling me you dropped an ocean on people with swords. Like, that is no different to today, in a sense. If you wanted to compare them to people throwing rocks and getting shot in the head.
Not going to be influenced by the people who are taken under their sway and support this cult of death. America stands for life. Israel stands for life. America stands for liberty. Israel stands for liberty. But President Trump and I believe in a doctrine that says simply this: peace through strength. First comes strength.
Oh, shut the fuck up with your Ronald Reagan ass, peace with strength, Gorbachev drop down that wall ass talking. He says, sorry, just the way my brain thinks sometimes. You're good, bro. Yeah, especially because you know me pretty well and you've seen the way my camera turned off, I think. I'll have to fix that real quick. Oh, it just lagged for a sec, that's all. You're good, bro. You know that my brain also works pretty wonky in the ways it goes, right? So I feel you, bro. I'm probably on the spectrum myself. What is this about? It's only 2 minutes, so I'll watch it.
Oh shit! Exclusive. The Justice Department told President Trump.
Bro, we already know this. That's old news. That his name is in the Epstein list. We all know that. That already got talked about. I care about Epstein, but I do not care getting caught. But I do not care about old news, rehashed. So, now that I've just went through my hour and a half, 2 hours of reacting to the Netanyahu video, which I'm probably honestly going to edit tonight and post the last hour and a half of me responding to